of his name tag.
Yeah.
And it's should be attached, I hope.
Yep. So moved. A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I wasn't here, so
Is that you? Are you abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Chris. So
So
3
there's
yeses
one-
and Chris abstains. That's done. Okay, case 1151 Acadia Holdings LLC owner requests a special exception mixed use from the terms of Article 4, Section 402 of the zoning ordinance to allow for commercial and residential structures on the same parcel. The property is identified as map 34, lot 42, and is located in the 633 John Stark Highway in the Kellyville zoning district. Christina,
Yes.
did you have a chance to check on, I mean, I
They
thought,
had not done a prior mixed-use application. Otherwise, I have no case on file.
all right, I was thinking we did one that,
I could go look in archives, but I should still have the case upstairs, like that they did a mixed use prior. This one can cover that even if they did, if that was specific for the one trailer, that this would cover additional ones, but I couldn't find any mixed use application.
okay, so I guess we'll move ahead. And I will, before we get started with this, I will mention that I do plow this driveway, and I hay the lot next door of an abutter, so I just wanted to put that out there. I don't think I have a conflict, but if anybody has qualms with that, let me know. So, I don't see Martha was, okay. Well, I have limited engagement with an abutter and the spot. All right, so I guess if the applicant will come forward and tell us what they're looking to do, and anybody speaks, please just state your name. So
You
we
want me
can
to
get
get it up or?
No, that's as long as people can hear you.
Oh, Dan Bonin. So I had met with Christina a couple months ago, and we were just kind of going over what it would entail to actually put a residential unit on the second floor of the building, because there's a large space right now that isn't really being utilized for anything, and I thought it would be a good fit just with Newport kind of needing housing right now. And the property has essentially been operating as a mixed use for over 20 years. So I guess, this would just be one more kind of check mark just to make sure all the ducks are in a row for the property.
Any exception. Anybody else? Any butters? Oh, hi Martha, there you are. Okay, any questions from the board?
One apartment, one unit you're planning to use here, or is it something you're going to establish? It's already there?
So what's there right now is it would be a very easy build out. There's an office that's essentially the size of a bedroom. There's already a full bath, shower, and everything.
On the second floor?
Yes, it would essentially be adding a row of cabinets and a stove, really. And obviously, it has the fluorescent lighting. I would switch it over to can lighting, new flooring and stuff, those little cosmetic things. But as far as the build out of it, it's very straightforward.
Weren't you thinking though of potentially doing two, potentially? Or are you only looking to do one? I'm sorry to interrupt, just you might, if you want to do
I
two.
think that's what Chris is.
Yeah, are you potentially looking to
Yeah,
do
that's what I was
two
looking
units?
for.
Well, so right now, what's going on is the building is steel construction, 18-foot ceilings. The front end of it has a second floor. The back end of it is wide open, 18-foot ceilings. So in Christina and I's initial conversation, I had thrown around the idea of later on, kind of a phase two, maybe putting a floor system in, for an additional thing if it was a good fit. At the beginning, to be honest, I wouldn't plan on doing that, so I don't know if that's something I should mention now, like maybe two, but it would just be one right now.
Well, so one unit, one apartment.
Yes.
Okay, because my next question, if
Yeah,
I may,
probably.
is I'm looking at your septic, and it's too bad Tim isn't here. Our septic guy, it says general info, number of bedrooms 2. Now, is that particular septic system for this
That covers-
building?
Yeah, does that
No,
cover?
there's two septic.
Right, no, I'm
yes, sorry,
asking about
apologize.
which one is which. I mean, you're provided this picture here,
Yep.
which is where you're talking about
Yes.
establishing something. Then you've got another building here.
Yes.
So I'm assuming one septic system is for here in the back,
Yes.
and the other is for this.
Yes.
So am I right in reading this to say number of bedrooms 2 for the place that you're going to put an apartment in?
Yes.
Okay, so it's sized for a 2-bedroom apartment
Yes.
as of now. Okay,
Yes.
but since you're I'm assuming that if you put something in there, it'll be 2 bedrooms because that's
Yes.
what the septic is for. Okay, great.
But you
That's
said
all.
it's already got a bathroom in it, and a shower.
Yes. Yep. Well, it's a 1.5. There's a half bath on the first floor for the storefront. Just toilet and sink.
Yep. Okay.
So if at a later date you wanted to do another apartment, you'd have to address the septic.
Yes.
Correct.
That's correct. The 1,000-gallon septic only allows for 2 bedrooms. So unless he did 2 one-bedroom units, he would have to address the septic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other-
That's all I've got. Yeah, thank you.
Close it off to the board.
Yeah, I don't think I have that.
I don't see any, I mean, it's basically,
All he's doing is finishing off the second
yeah,
floor.
and
Yeah.
one more unit on egress is fine, parking's fine.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yep.
Chair. Are you discussing or are you in deliberations right now?
We're in deliberation. We've closed it off without a vote. All right. All those in favor of going into deliberation?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We're now in deliberation.
There's a lot of pre-existing
Yeah,
structure and planning and traffic, and I can hardly...
So really, the mixed use is just, it already had everything on this.
it's to codify what's there
Yeah.
and another unit, and it's certainly not going to change anything to have another unit there. I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
You said, I didn't see where there was a separate septic for the trailer.
I didn't either. That's why I was asking
There are two
about it.
septics
It
on the
says
property.
it says two septic systems in your,
There are, I don't have the data from DES on them, but I could confirm, if you were to grant this special exception, I could easily confirm that with DES, because there are two septics.
you said two septics here.
Yes,
on
it
there.
does.
Okay.
It does.
So we're gonna take your
We're
word.
not required to get septic system plans. They are required to go to DES. It's also always helpful if people give me a copy, but they're not required to give me a copy.
They're gonna need to get approved septic plan before they get occupancy anyway.
Why? There,
You can't get an occupancy permit without having septic.
sounds like they're already got occupancy though.
No one lives-
Not for residential.
Okay.
Not in that building.
But why, I don't, I mean, if it's already sized for 2 bedrooms and you have no more than that would really be more like a formality.
Yeah, I would think so, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Right,
it's not
but
would
you.
be a
it still has
Yeah.
to be checked.
Sure.
checked-
Well,
checked
so
before
what was-
occupancy.
So what was this study done then? Here, primary septic tank evaluation checklist.
You'd have to ask the owner. I didn't do that study. Did you, Dan, did you do that?
Yes. Yeah, so that was with Byron's, that was just to check what was there, because obviously a septic is underground, you can't see what's going on. And just to be proactive as far as, putting the additional load from the residential on the system. I just wanted the guy to put eyes on it. We ran the camera down, saw where everything was, and
Understood.
we definitely confirmed there was 2 systems on the property, one for each building.
Right. Okay, but the existence is confirmed, so it just needs to be inspected.
Well, so before they get a residential.
Right, get a CO.
Before they get an
Yeah.
occupancy permit
Yeah.
from us, that pretty much is a checkbox that has to be done.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Well, I
Yes.
don't have any objections to
I
it.
guess I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we
Start with.
get the worksheet.
I got the cheat sheet here. Here you go.
Look at that.
Finally, I found
Oh, I
something.
apologize. Oh,
Again.
no.
So
Oh,
say,
my God, I'm so sorry. You don't have a
no.
Oh, let me go get that for you.
So say, I got the final one without the little check off. If you want me to make notes, I gotta have the check off.
This is the,
That's for the special exemption.
yeah,
And then there's
special-
another
yeah,
one
there's
for
the other one.
our favorite for the,
Yeah. Statement of reasons.
that's right. Oogie. What does this monitor do? Other than look cool.
Allows us to play Pac-Man while we're waiting for things.
What's that?
It allows us to play Pac-Man while we're waiting for things.
I wish. But it's Missile Command, sorry.
Oh,
If
okay,
you're
great.
dating yourself.
Great. Oh, great. Listen.
If you're gonna date yourself.
Space Invaders.
Space
How about that one?
Invaders. that'll work, yeah.
How back, how far back do you want to go?
Tetris.
Yeah, I don't really have any problem. This is just kind of a formality, really.
Well, Kellyville was kind of designed when it was created to be fairly all-encompassing.
Fairly?
Yes.
I have is with the second residential unit there, could this be considered a cluster development? What does that do to us?
Well, what constitutes a cluster development? Isn't it more than
Well,
two?
again, the purpose.
Cluster development is an optional form of subdivision for single-family dwellings, which may include condominiums that allow lots of reduced dimension where development will occur in order to maximize the sharing of
Open space, yeah.
Maximum density is set by the zoning ordinance.
This isn't really a subdivision, it's just,
Well, it's all on one.
yeah.
And the
Generally, a
prop,
cluster is done on,
Sorry, it's a little rudimentary there, that's.
that's the
you've got-
5
yeah.
It's
questions.
not a concern, it's not a
Yeah,
concern.
Oh, that's the
This
3,
is a
okay.
cheat sheet for you.
Okay.
I don't have one either.
I
got one, I got one.
I'm coming. There you go. Sorry
Thank
about
you, ma'am.
that.
Okay. A, the proposal will not be detrimental to the overall character of the neighborhood.
And it's not going to change anything.
I'll make a motion that standard A has been met.
Any second?
I'll, go ahead.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Proposal will not be injurious, noxious, offenses to any detrimental or in any way detrimental to the neighborhood.
I would make a motion that standard B has been met. It's not going to change anything. It's other than,
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, and will not be contrary to the public health, safety, and general welfare. Under traffic.
I would second that.
You want to make a motion?
I thought he made the
I'll just read.
Oh, fine, I'll make a motion that
There you
the
go.
standards of C have been met.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
And just, conditions septic is adequate for use, is that?
As it's, as this.
That's gonna have
application
to
has
be
been done. Right,
yeah.
with the, well, which we don't, the inspection will be not in our,
I don't think that's in our.
I'm not sure we're qualified to make those interpretations.
Yeah, I don't think so
well,
either.
in this case, certainly.
You could add it if you want, but obviously,
If
the
it- if-
septic is gonna have to be working and will be, working order prior to anyone moving in. Even if the septic's there, it'll have to be working too.
Yeah, so if it has to be inspected anyway, I mean, it's, all we're doing is giving the,
Yeah.
Ability to finish off the
Probably what they'll do is look over the inspection he's got, but I would assume that will work, but.
Someone else puts their signature on it.
Right. Do I have a motion for the whole case?
I'll make a motion, we approve case number 1151 as presented.
Do I have a
Second. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Do we sign these things anyway?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, sure.
That's only a point of order, not related to this. Do you, at what point does an abutter have the opportunity to respond to those same questions? I didn't hear you ask that question, is that
Oh, I did
no
ask,
longer a part of the procedure?
yeah, I did ask for a butters, and I'm sorry, but,
Did you? Or-
yeah, before we closed, on this one.
Not that, yeah, any case, so you did.
Yes, yeah, well, after the people present, and I'm sorry if I didn't,
For that, yeah, no.
if I didn't say it loud enough, I mumbled, just ask Becky. But, yes, after the applicant presents, butters will have a chance.
Prior, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And then we'll close it off.
You're all set?
All set on that.
This is also a special exception. There you go.
Alright, case 1153 Elm Knoll Manor, NFI North 8. Elm Knoll Manor owner, NFI North agent requests a special exception from the terms of Article 1, Section 2072 of the zoning ordinance.
Article 2.
Article 2, Section 207.2 of the zoning ordinance, to allow for a convalescent rest home. The property is identified as map 115, lot 5, and is located at 98 Elm Street in the single-family R1 zoning district. So if the applicant would like to tell us what you're looking to do.
Sure. Hi, my name is Luke Bernard. I represent NFI North. This is Dr. Paul Van. He's the executive director.
Good evening.
So we are here, we have a purchase and sales agreement with the owner of the property right now to house 5 individuals. These will be elderly individuals transitioning from a state-run nursing home up north. They'll have different levels of intellectual or physical or medical needs, not to the skilled nursing level, but assistance with daily activities. Could be assistance with bathing, getting out of bed, assistance in the community, shopping, those kind of things. The house itself is ideal for our use. It's very flat, so 5 people can be housed on the first floor. There's ample space. I don't know if you just kind of want me to talk through each point of the
Yeah,
section.
so, yes, if that probably would be a good way to do it. So this is assisted living, not nursing.
It's not skilled nursing. We will have a nurse on site 20 hours a week for who knows what, but it's not considered skilled nursing.
So they're transitioning from another facility?
Correct. It's a large facility. It's called Glencliff.
Okay.
Glencliff is a skilled nursing facility. These people don't meet that requirement. They're able to live in the community, and part of our mission and agreement with the state is if they're able to live in the community, we want to give them that opportunity.
So they're transitioning to return to home?
No, they would be living with us.
Okay.
This would be their home in the
Right.
community.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
There's
But
a
there-
lack
it's
of
a-
housing for this kind of person.
Yeah, something in the middle.
And they're moving from a 100-plus bed facility. The state's actually shrinking it down to 70. And if people can live in a smaller setting, that's kind of the initiative we're working on.
Yeah, if you want to just go through
Sure.
the criteria.
So in terms of character, we, like I said, there's only going to be 5 people living there. It's quite a large house, probably fewer people than are living there currently. Like I said, there'll be a variety of medical and physical needs. Again, easily supported in the community like we would an elderly parent. So actually, when we work in communities, one of the things we do is we invest in our properties. So we have plans to fix up the house, to make any repairs, make sure that we, keep and improve the neighborhood where it is, and try to keep those standards really high. Our goal is to be the best neighbor. So, that's really what we do is we're trying to invest in the community. So it's a nice house, and I think we can contribute to it.
I think one of the things that, if you were to see any of our community residences that we operate, one of the things you'd realize is that we're very much in keeping with the overall character of the surrounding neighborhood. The house as it looks, really it's a lovely single-family house. That's how it will look. It's not going to look like an institution. There won't be any issues of scale. In fact, with 5 people living there, it's a space that could house many, many more people than that. So we actually would be lessening the scale that's possible within that size of a building. Certainly noise. We are there for quiet enjoyment. These are seniors.
Watch those rowdy seniors.
Although I recently found out that I'm a senior, I got a discount at the state park. So,
Congratulations.
thank you, but anyway. Certainly odor. It's no more than it's a residential use. Not like we're not manufacturing anything or doing things like that.
So you have more than one facility like this?
Well, as an organization, and I would invite anyone to look us up, it's called NFI North. Our mission is to inspire and empower people to reach their full potential. So as a result, if you look at our services, we actually do services along the life continuum. So right now we're serving 300 families in their own homes with their children, for example. That's one of our in-home services. But we also have services all the way up to transitional housing services, residential community services such as this. So we have a total of 28 services now, but some of them are community residences. About 18 of them are similar to these types of services. But again, it depends on the age range. This is a senior group, so
Yeah.
I think everyone is 60 or over in terms of their age.
Yeah. This is a kind of a subset of a population. We serve all different ages, but this particular home is for 5 elderly individuals.
So are you going to have someone there 24/7?
Yes.
As a monitor or whatever?
So we use what's called a professional staff model, so we have trained staff that will be working there. There'll always be an awake person during the nights, for example. There's always someone available during the day, as well as clinical staff, nursing staff, those sort of things.
Wow, okay.
Anyone else like to?
Well, that's A.
Yeah.
If we could just run down
Well,
each one.
it seemed like you
Sorry,
had-
I know you guys got a big agenda.
You hit most of them.
I
I
think
mean,
we
I
did.
certainly heard character of the neighborhood, which is the last one and stuff, so I was thinking you were covering them all.
I think we kind of did. I mean,
I would just add to the public safety and well-being of the public. We're one neighbor that's very responsive. I mean, I've lived in my life next to neighbors that I have no control over what happens with some neighbors, but we are very responsive. We're licensed by the department. We're licensed by the state. We have to meet all code and fire requirements before we can be present in any of our facilities. And we're also accredited by the Joint Commission. So we come to a very high standard, and I think we certainly aren't going to affect the general welfare of the local community here. If anything, we contribute to the local community because we do community service. Our folks get involved. We're a fairly large employer at this point. We have about 440 employees across the 2 states that we operate in. We'll provide employment typically for people from the communities that we're in, so we're a good contributor to the economic engine in the town as well.
And I think it's important to add, too, in terms of being part of the neighborhood and the community. We have a community advisory committee, so these are people who want to know what we're doing or want to be involved in what we're doing or learn more about us, and we invite them to be part of that board and give us some advice and feedback.
All right, thanks. And you'll have another bite if somebody...
I have no doubt.
This
That's
is
great.
good forever.
Sorry.
Anybody else like to speak?
If I can, you mentioned staff. Did you say what you're thinking your staffing would be? The number of staff you would have?
So during the day, there's 2 to 3 staff on during the day, 7 days a week, and then there's overnight staff as well.
Same number of...
Well, it's
Probably less. It's
One,
it's
maybe
usually
1 to 2.
One staff.
Yeah, and it's a 3-shift,
Yeah.
3-shift rotation.
Right.
Thank you.
This would obviously have significant oversight on the state level, and obviously, before anyone could move in, they would need their certificate
Sure.
of occupancy, meet all fire,
Sure.
building,
Yeah,
everything
that's-
code. So there would be no concerns on that level.
The
Yes, just for
Part
you.
C here is saying staff will have personal vehicles. I was just trying to put a number to that on C. So
Any questions, comments from Ed?
I got 2 questions. You say you offer transitional housing also. Is this particular unit strictly for elderly? And I'm confused about this transitional. I can picture a in and out type thing. Can you explain that a little bit, if you would?
Sure. So this, we do operate transitional housing in other communities. This particular house and the individuals living there are not considered transitional housing. These are elderly people. This is likely to be their forever home. So none of the in and out, people moving in and out, other than if there are medical needs that we couldn't address.
I mean, but typically people go from home to something like this and then to skilled nursing. So it's a
That's sort of the
transition.
continuum.
It's a
correct.
transition between home and skilled nursing is the way I understand it.
Right. I appreciate the question. Our desire in this program is to make this the home for these folks. It's a place for them to live, be part of a community. We operate a program like this in Bangor, Maine, called Finson Road, and the average resident there has been there for about 8 or 9 years. And typically, if we can, they'll stay there for their life, if they can. But if they need skilled nursing care, then we would move them there. But typically, it would be very unusual for someone to come there and then get into their own apartment or those sort of things.
I just had one more, if you will. I think you're looking around for other properties. I've heard in the community. I've been alerted that you found some other places that you're questioning now. you're picking some pretty nice buildings and they're pretty good tax figures for our community. You're non-profit, are you gonna be filing for what do you call it, tax exempt stuff? Are we gonna be running into that? I mean, are we gonna be picking up that slack, we as the residents? Just a question, would you be focused?
That's a fair question. So we are a tax exempt organization. We will bring employment into the community. We're not going to be using the public schools, for example. Right now, that big house, a family of 10 could move in there. They could pay their taxes, but they could have eight children in school. They're not going to create jobs. We're going to create jobs. So typically, we would file for tax exemption.
And you're looking around the community for more.
We have we have a contract right now to set up 4 of these, and the idea is to have 2 in proximity to each other, so we can share resources between each other.
Yeah, try and direct everything at your questions here and yours here. Now, but my understanding is tax exempt, that's from income taxes and that type of stuff. It's not from property taxes.
I'm sorry?
That's not from tax exempt is income, that type of thing. It's not from property taxes.
For a nonprofit.
Yeah, well, there's tons of nonprofits that pay taxes on their buildings. So,
Well, as I said, we've made different arrangements with different communities.
okay.
That has no basis on what we're deciding tonight.
Yeah, that's true. That's between you guys and the selectmen. But
It's a good question. Yeah.
Grant, if it's not resolved.
But it's really outside our purview tonight.
But yeah, I mean, there are, I think most nonprofits, except for the health center pays property taxes, everything but churches and the schools, I think, pretty much pay property taxes. So I would hope.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. All right.
No more questions, or am I done?
No, go ahead, Ed. What else?
One more. I'm sorry.
No, that's why we're here.
Counting this tax issue down at Brody. But the reasons some of these houses are vacant and they're not being sold is because of the high tax rate that sits on them now. And I know another one's very high, and that's why it's not moving. And I think you're looking at that, and I won't bring that up, but we lose that, you guys.
Well,
So,
as I
I don't know how you can actually.
No, hey,
You do have
direct
to
it
talk
here,
to,
please.
you can't talk to records.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
You can't
that's
see me. You couldn't hear me. Right? I was looking that way.
Yeah, no, we
No, I'm
try
not
and
looking
keep,
around.
You weren't
we're
doing
trying to
anything
keep
wrong.
everything coming here.
It's just we were trying to redirect that you're supposed to always talk to the chairman, and then if someone wants to respond, they're supposed to respond to the chairman.
Okay, I thought it was kind of.
You are.
Yes.
We were sorry, we were talking to this chairman.
It's me. That was me.
But,
So I
You're
guess
not
I'd
in
say,
trouble,
I think you people up front need to consider that. It's a big factor for this community, because you talk about bringing work in and everything, but we're taxed to death now. And it's just,
No,
I love the concept and all that, but we're losing money here.
I hear you, Ed, but but that is not, that would be, they would have to file for an abatement, and that would go to the selectmen.
Is it okay if I
Sure.
respond? So, as I said, we make different arrangements with different communities. So, for example, in some communities, they recognize our tax exempt status here in New Hampshire, and we don't pay taxes. In other communities, we pay a pilot payment in lieu of taxes, essentially the same as the tax amount. We do that in order to protect our nonprofit status. So we'd be open to all kinds of any arrangements.
But that's outside, all we're doing at this point is
Yes.
just,
Yeah, that's outside.
is just deciding on the special exemption for what they're gonna do. Beyond that, the use of it with taxes and that approval is not our board's responsibility to do anything with.
Yeah, well, ours are the 3 questions here.
Yeah,
And it could not be really taken into consideration because,
Yeah.
because if this is, right, I don't believe that whether the tax exempt will have to be taken into consideration for a special exception.
Yeah,
I don't believe, but I can double check that.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Okay, our thing is to answer the 3, because this is a permitted use by special exception, and the 3 questions that we need to answer are the ones overall character of the neighborhood, injurious, noxious, offensive, and will not be contrary to public health. There are three things that we have to answer. The tax issue would be the select.
We can't take it into consideration, or the board can't take it into consideration on approving or not approving this request. Taxes.
So, but it is a good question. All right, anything else on the use?
I'll call, I can call you on it. You could change zoning, that would be good. That's all, bottom line.
Any other input? Any more questions from the board? Close to, motion to close for deliberation?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right. You know, as far as our jurisdiction, so to speak, I mean, it doesn't, I don't think there's anything contrary to what we're asking. I mean, to the three questions that we have to answer.
Yeah.
Does everyone have a cheat sheet for special exception? Yes.
Yeah, you just give
Okay,
it.
thank you, sorry. I know, I just-
It's down here in the executive, but this was a B&B at one time,
Right.
where a lot more people were coming and going. So I don't see a problem with residents who probably aren't traveling. If they are, they're traveling, as they're saying, in a van. 2 to 3 staff at the max. I know this is a busy corner, one of the worst in the town, but it's not.
Driveways.
Right, but what I'm saying is that the impact is no worse
No, I mean,
from what was going on.
I mean, we've got one kind of across the road from us, and it's, as far as neighbors go, they're about as quiet as you can get. And on the traffic issue, and I don't know if there's anything you can do about it, if you could get people to take Elm Street off the GPS directions, traffic would diminish.
Right.
And if we turn ours on before we leave town, it sends us down Elm Street instead of the state highway. And up Maple Street also.
You've got to contact Google.
Yeah.
Call Google.
They'll put you on hold.
Of course they write, of course they don't. That was
But,
sarcasm, but
But
sorry.
I'll make a motion that the proposed use will not be detrimental to the overall character of the neighborhood by reason of undue variation from the nature of other uses in the vicinity, including design, scale, noise, and odor. And that
I would
the standard
second.
A has been met.
I would second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. B. Will not be injurious, noxious, offensive,
Oh.
anyway.
Make the motion that the proposed use will not be injurious, noxious, or offensive in any way detrimental to the neighborhood, and that standard B has been met.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
And proposal will not be contrary to public health, safety, and general welfare.
Make a motion that the proposed use will not be contrary to public health, safety, or general welfare by reason of undue traffic congestion or hazards that pose a risk of life and property to unsanitary or create unhealthful waste disposal or unhealthful conditions. Make a motion that standard C has been met.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I'm putting, as presented,
I'll make a motion, we approve special exception case 1153 as presented.
I'll second that.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that was,
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
There's a cheat sheet for you. Do you have the fairness cheat sheet?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, you're so good. There's a fairness cheat sheet.
There's the other one. Right, thanks. You're the best.
But you're
would
not.
be nice to answer that.
Neither am I. He's ready.
Not to give out property taxes. Okay, case 1154, request a variance from the terms of Article 4, Section 419 of the zoning ordinance to allow an accessory dwelling unit larger than 750 square feet on property as the property is identified as map 231, lot 7 is located at 346 Maple Street in the rural zoning district. And if you would present what you're looking to do.
Good evening, Victor Stewart. So what we're trying to do is just build a house and attach it to the garage that has living space above it now that we are currently living in. So we're just trying to get that approval.
They constructed the garage with 2 bedrooms upstairs, a 1 bedroom upstairs, I believe, and they finished the entire upstairs of the garage, which is above the 750 square feet, and so he could convert back to unfinished, ripped down. Well, because the minute they build a home, it becomes non-compliant. I can't give out building permits until we make sure this is compliant.
Okay, so you're going to live in the house and then rent out this? Or
No, so it's going to be office space. She works from home.
The garage or the?
The garage is going to be office space,
Oh,
and then
okay,
we'll
so
be
it's
living
not-
in the house.
Yeah, we don't want people.
Oh, okay, so it's going to be an office, okay.
Yeah.
Well, an ADU is an accessory dwelling unit, so that's why.
Or
Well, there's got-
they could have visitors up there that
Yeah.
spend the weekend or something.
But that's not,
Right.
it's like spare bedroom thing, not really ADU.
That's what my question was. Why
Yeah,
is this an
No, it has to
ADU?
be because they have the 4 components of an ADU.
Kitchen.
They are not removing the kitchen. They're not, nor do I think they should, but obviously, I guess they could, and then we wouldn't be here. There's a kitchen, there's a bathroom, there's a living area, and there's a sleeping area. So in theory, you could remove the beds out of up there, and I guess you could say it's not an ADU, but
It's an office.
the next person just puts beds in, and it really is an ADU.
So,
I think it's better.
By looking at this and deciding it could, whether they're not using it as that now, it allows them the option, or a future owner, that option in the future to use it
As
an
an- Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense to do it.
And it really is
Yeah,
a
it's
full independent dwelling. Not that they're going to use it as it, but
But
it is as it stands.
Yeah, they could choose later, or another owner, or they could choose later to Airbnb it.
Are we
Or
deliberating?
leave it empty. the
Yeah,
entire
are
time.
we
Are we deliberating?
still asking questions? Because I've got,
I just wanted to make,
Yeah.
it's an odd
Yeah.
request because
We're
the
making
card
yeah, it
sure
is.
of
we're-
course, yeah.
I was trying to understand why you're not just building a house.
Well, they are.
So-
Yeah, no, and just
Yeah.
saying we're building a house and, we're going
That's-
to make use of this. So,
It's the cart before the
so
horse.
I guess my first question is, how big is this structure?
It's
Can you write that?
28 by 36, so it's 1,006 square feet.
That's the garage.
Right.
Yes,
But-
and then the house is going to be the
No,
same.
no, no. This. Okay. What you have now,
Is 28 by 36.
28 by 36. So how big is this ADU going to be?
That's it.
That
It's
is.
already-
No,
that
that's
is-
it. You just,
It's 1,000 square foot ADU.
okay, it will be 1,000 square.
You see the cards before the horse,
Yes,
it's
I know.
already there.
Okay. No. Okay. The reason is 750 square feet is an ADU size. They're asking for a variance for that, and I'm asking. They're saying that the size of this is, which is so many square feet. I'm trying to get an idea of how.
It's 1,006.
So it's 250 square feet more
Correct.
than the standard size. Okay. All right.
Currently, it's not an ADU. It stands alone as an independent dwelling.
But it will be.
Yes, the
Okay.
minute they built.
Yeah.
So.
Basically
I guess-
the same thing we approved on Main Street.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
really
down-
just.
Yeah. Well, except that was already all
That
done.
That was an existing,
Yeah.
fit within an existing.
It was an existing structure. Yeah.
It says this.
This one will be attached, and it's existing. Nothing will change from the outside. In theory, they could rip out the whole ADU, make their house, nothing, whether they rip it out or leave it, you will see nothing different in the end.
As far as the garage part is, there'll be a new house attached.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be attached, so they're not in violation of not attached.
Oh, that's right, so that was even.
That was the
Right, that was the
detached.
other, that was the special, that was the
Yes,
variance,
yeah.
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 Right.
This will look much more like a normal home that you wouldn't, no one would necessarily know there's an apartment above the garage.
So the 1,000 square feet is including the garage. I mean, that's the foot.
No,
No,
That's the
that's
existing
the-
garage footprint right now.
right.
The
And the
garage
structure
is
There's a new
above.
house that's being built attached to the existing
So you're
garage.
living in the garage
We're living, yeah, above the garage.
above the
In the
garage.
apartment.
That's what I. Okay, so
So the first floor is unfinished, they have a 1,000 square foot garage, they finished the top.
Yeah, I
they
get
finished
that.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, so they're living upstairs.
Oh.
So I know somebody in Grantham that's
Yeah.
got the same situation, and then
A
they
lot
built
of
their
people-
house, and then
a lot of people, that's all they're doing now, is living, they're called, they can be fancy too, they're called barn dominiums.
yeah.
When
Just,
you live
barn
above,
dominium.
just don't,
Google it, they're pretty cool.
No, that's okay.
don't park your
I'll
Tesla
believe you.
under it.
Don't think that's why you're barn dominium, right.
Okay, any more?
I'm just, it doesn't really matter. I was gonna ask something about
Any,
the sequence of events, but it doesn't really matter. for
We were
me.
trying to sell our other house in North Newport. That's why we built the garage first, and then
Right, I understand that, but would you, what's stopping you from building your home and then applying for a variance?
I cannot allow them to build a home attached
Okay.
when I know, because in theory, this is an independent dwelling home as it stands right now.
Yeah.
He is not allowed to build another home.
Ah, okay.
Attached
Hence
or
the
not attached.
interesting
It's-
sequence
it's
of
the-
events.
The
Okay,
So in
horse
order to
before
get-
the cart.
right.
In order to get a building permit for
I
that,
made him go through this.
you have to make it.
Okay.
And again, it keeps everyone sleeping well at night.
any
Yeah.
comments, questions from others, neighbors, anything?
So, hi guys, I'm Chris Spears, I'm your neighbor, and so I actually came to just meet you guys, nice to meet you guys. And I would be all for it, you know, I mean, I drive by their place, I see it all the time. I haven't met you guys yet, but congrats, you know, and thanks for improving the community.
thank you.
Chris is a stunning barn, their neighbor. The Amish just came up and built. Literally.
Seriously?
It's stunning.
All right.
They're still building.
They're still
Or
building.
they're still building, or you should go check it out. Anyway, it's another topic.
And FYI, for anybody applying for a variance or something, touch base with your neighbors before you get here. But,
It's helpful.
this is the parts of, yeah, let them know what the registered letter's for. Anything else? Anybody else in the audience? Any more questions from the board?
We go through all the questions here, or
Well, are we ready to close the deliberation? Oh, good evening.
B, we don't have other things, I think I'm good.
Nothing. So it's just you guys. So the septic isn't gonna change. None of that's gonna change,
Yes.
right?
It's already in, they had to do
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
for this dwelling, like they built its standalone home.
Yeah.
So they have to do it all again, although I already have, the septic is on site and is for a 4-bedroom. They built it larger than a 2-bedroom, they built it for a 4-bedroom. So their home cannot exceed being built for a 3-bedroom,
So it's
which I
over-
will have to monitor. And I do have their plans already.
Yep.
Which it's a 3-bedroom home. And the ADU might never have anyone ever sleeping or living in it, ever.
But if it did, the septic system is oversized to
Yeah,
begin
it's-
with
right.
now.
There you're
Yes.
covered. The ADU covers
Yeah, we
you
were
for
planning
that.
on this the whole
I
time.
will
Yeah.
tell you, my mother-in-law lived with us. It happens.
Bad for others.
The best laid plans.
All right,
Make a motion, we go into deliberation.
I'll second that.
No, so-
all in
I thought we
favor?
did that.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, do you understand the sequence that's going on here? Just kidding.
Yes, they cannot get a building permit unless they get a variance to build a house.
I know it sounds weird, I'm trying to keep the people honest.
I got it. I got
Scott.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
it's also important for
Future
whoever
use.
you might sell it to, that they have this
Yeah.
possibility too, so.
And in my mind, it's less out of the box than the one we approved on
Yeah.
South Main Street.
More compliant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It,
more
it
compliant.
makes more
Yeah.
sense. It's just
Yeah.
inverted.
Yeah,
It is more compliant because they're attached.
correct. And
Of course,
the,
I'm not sure why an ADU needs to be attached.
Oh, here we go again.
But that's for planning board.
Yeah, that's the, yeah.
And definitely not.
You're in the wrong meeting.
Okay.
Well, I'm always, my question always is hardship. So you're going to force people to tear down half this place.
Well, you can't,
Huh?
because they're living there.
Well, not
No,
while they're
they
living there, no.
They could create dead
Well, they
space.
could, I don't know.
They could create dead space to comply with the 750.
Well, we've talked about that.
It seems silly to me, but that's.
And-
It is, yeah, no.
All right, we're putting the cart before the horse. Do we, any more deliberation, or do we somebody want to start making motion?
I would make a motion that granting the variance would not be contrary to public interest because all he's doing is improving the property that much more. And that was really their plan from the beginning. It's giving the owner the use of the property as they see fit.
Second. You got that written down?
No. I was trying to look up crap for number 5 already.
Crap for number 5.
How to write it.
Unnecessary hardship.
Writing that down. Keep
Granting
in
the
mind,
variance,
by not making him create dead space, we have more taxable property on that.
Ooh.
It says we're so interested in the tax.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
We'd have to untax 250 square
All right,
feet.
so-
Such altruism.
Well, that's what happened when I built my garage that was almost as big as my house.
what was your rationale before I started?
Yeah.
here?
I can make that space.
It would not be contrary to public interest because
It's really finishing the property,
It would enhance
Enhance.
and complete the
existing property.
enhancement of the property.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Okay. 2.
Make a motion that the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because the exterior appearance of the ADU would not change. Would not change if they were required to reduce the living space.
But yeah, it's hard to put it together because they lived there already. So
Right,
we're
but I'm
back.
saying by reducing, there is no, from the ordinance, you would not see a difference looking at the property.
No one would have no knowledge. Right. It could be a
Right.
300 square foot ADU or the 1,000.
It's not like you're overwhelming a piece of property or something. There's no land use difference with the existing variance.
So you moved True 6, somebody second that?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. All right, I'll make a motion that granting the variance would do substantial justice because we have a pre-existing structure and the modifications that would be required would be costly and frankly, I think unnecessary.
I would second that, with adding that it'll also allow them to expand their home to meet the family's needs. I mean, that's pretty much what they put in here, but it's
Because
really it
there's an
allows.
ADU there.
Yeah.
All right.
You know.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right. 4.
I make a motion that for the following reasons, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because it's improving the existing property.
And our brothers seem to think it wasn't.
Wait, when do you get a positive of that? Very rare.
So I want to know how you got an Amish crew to come up and
It's
do a
amazing.
barn raising.
It's amazing, yes.
I've seen that. I've been to
And they're up there
Pennsylvania.
without
And
any.
I had customers there.
It's shockingly amazing. Sorry.
Okay. Do I have any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
I can't talk to them right now. Sorry.
Make a motion that owing to the special condition of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in a necessary hardship because there is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property, because the ADU is within an existing structure that would not change on the outside appearance, and
You take shorthand, Bob?
and the
You seen his handwriting?
in order to meet the ordinance, the owners would have to diminish the value of their property.
Yeah. I would second that.
And the further part, and the proposed use is a reasonable one because it provides the owner with full enjoyment of their property.
Second.
Bet your Mara finished writing that before you did.
Well, I put with reasonable use of property, took editorial privilege. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, so Janice, you're all set.
Make a motion that we grant the variance, case number 1154, as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
You need a second.
Second.
Aye.
Alright, you're all set.
Congratulations, build a house.
You realize this is on TV?
I had a customer in Pennsylvania or something anyway, which is,
Have you been signing these?
and they were doing barn
Okay,
raising.
so this, I
Back
will
when
only
they
put
had
in
machine
conditions.
shop.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put as presented.
Oh, perfect, do that for, oh yeah, that's actually not bad.
I was, the other thing that I've heard is this concept of cabinet making. These guys are,
That's what I
you know,
said.
people bring them in and they do
I can
all
go
kinds of
add it
cabinet
forms, you
making,
don't have
so,
to write it every time.
which is just phenomenal work.
So how are you doing? Here it is, here's this. Do you want me to take anything else out of your way? Okay. So you know what, I might take this one and put it back in the box.
Okay. You got writer's cramp yet? God bless you, Ben.
Okay, case 1155, Mark Cornell, owner, requests special exception from the terms of Article 2, Section 2062, the zoning ordinance to allow for a cluster development. The property is identified as map 218, lot 1 is located on North Main Street in the rural zoning district. Go ahead. Mark?
Oh, yeah. I'm not Mark.
Okay.
Here's Mark to my left here. I'm Spencer Tate with Meridian Land Services, certified wetland scientist, certified soil scientist, licensed septic system designer from New Hampshire. Mark Brunel, property owner.
Okay.
So the subject property, and I have a full plan, and I wasn't sure. I have an easel. I can. Are these in
Right,
packets,
or-
Christina, or?
They're in their package, not
Okay.
to this size, not, because they're not required at this level to their
Sure.
size. We do have, can you take those out one by one, because we have magnets?
Yeah, just where's the best place for me to do
If
that?
you just take, if you start it one at a time, and but then we could just magnet.
Unless you want your face to be in every camera shot.
It would be an injustice to the public, I guess, to see your face.
So, I'll start
I'll
with
help you magnet it up there.
just, okay. I'll start with just the existing conditions plan. We'll probably trip through pretty quickly. Feel free, post
If you
everybody
guys
to
want to
see
move up, now would be the time.
Mark, would you mind just kind of pending these?
So actually, let's just stick it
So here on behalf of Mr. Mark Brunel to seek a special exception for cluster development on lands in the rural district. A singular lot identified as map 21811. It's a 21-acre piece north of town. Let's say, I don't know, 5 minutes from about where we are. Airport Road is right here, so the airport is off over here. You can see where we are in the locust plan. There's existing hayfield or former hayfield, wetland area, and then there's kind of a smattering of old ag lands, sand removal operation, as well as forest lands. Actually was logged as of last winter. The parcel, again, 21 acres and can be serviced by water. The last water connection is right around the corner of Airport Road, so it's actually across the street from the frontage. So because we can service the property with water, the allowed density by right is 45 units. So the special exception, I guess I'm cooking through those because we are here tonight for a subsequent variance request, is that it won't be detrimental to the overall characteristics of the neighborhood. This is a residential use, and we're intending for the use to be residential. There will be no off-site impacts other than those associated with the water line extension, which is going to be worked entirely within the New Hampshire DOT right-of-way, so out of the town's jurisdiction. And it won't have any impacts on the surrounding land uses because the site will need to be graded. And it's difficult to not get into the site-specific criteria on this. But because the site will need to be graded in order to maintain a consistent road slope, we're going to be cutting this down such that when you're driving up Route 10, you'd have kind of a berm and then it'd be back into the site, so that you wouldn't, there'd be basically a earthen berm, and then that could be landscaped as part of the site plan approval, or excuse me, the subdivision approval.
Is that for privacy?
Well, it's more for functionality, right? So we can't grade in the right of way because NHDOT will be a little prickly about that. So we'll have to hold those high grades where they are currently, and then in order to, if you can see where the existing entrance is, which is just about where we'd be putting the proposed entrance, we're around elevation 786, and so even if it was a 10% slope on an 800-foot long road, we'd be looking at 80 feet of vertical delta, and that's with a 10% road. We'd obviously want this a little bit flatter, so we would need to knock down the high spots.
Okay.
So it's kind of intrinsic with the road design and the subdivision design, is having the resultant earthen berms along New Hampshire Route 10. The proposed use will not be injurious, noxious, or offensive. Adjacent properties within the view shed, so these, I believe, are vacant and town-owned, or town-owned and then vacant. This isn't vacant?
No.
Okay. This, lot 21311, Christina, would that...
I could look up who there, you're right, the one across the street is not vacant. The other one is the town, north well.
This one currently is vacant, but was recently approved for a large...
Yeah, senior housing project, yes.
Yep.
96 unit.
It's not approved anymore,
It is approved. It's approved through the zoning board. It has not gone to planning board yet.
So the proposed use will not be industrial or commercial. Residential use will have no impact on the odor or noise. This isn't going to be and there is the airport across the street, so this isn't going to be a use that will be different from the characteristics of the neighborhood.
What about?
You get a chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, would you repeat what you just said again?
So the land use will not be different than the surrounding property uses. It's a residential use that we're intending to,
Okay.
the property owners intending to do this. We're not looking to change this to a commercial or industrial property or have it rezoned.
Yep.
Traffic will access and egress from a single point on a state highway. NHDOT will obviously need to improve the design but the volume is below what the Route 10 is already approved for, or the design load of Route 10. Lots will be state approved and be serviced by municipal water and then individual on-site septic systems.
That was my other question. Individual.
So obviously we'd have to get through that level of the planning process, do test pits, site-specific soil mapping. Here we've done a complete boundary survey as well as a wetland delineation to identify the natural characteristics on the property. What the cluster development allows us to do is reduce, again, 45 units is allowed according to the current zoning. What the cluster development allows us to do is concentrate that development into smaller areas that will lower the infrastructural and maintenance demand of the overall piece.
The septics too have to obviously all be approved as they always are via the state. I don't even do that, so not one house could be built without
Yeah.
each having a septic. So that just, it would be dead in the water if there was no septics approval via DES.
Right, the lots wouldn't even get to be approved at the subdivision level.
Exactly.
Because we need to demonstrate the viability of
Exactly.
the lot even before we got to that point. So let's, I'm happy to answer any questions from your public.
Any questions from here for now? Go ahead.
So you also have another diagram here.
Yes, it probably
Which
references.
shows, yes.
Probably should have queued this up earlier.
You can slip and fall if you put too many up. So but that, I think it can handle that, but it just be
Yeah, I'll try not to.
No, I think it can handle that, yeah.
Okay. See, I'm trying not to get into the weeds about the. I know they're kind of nested, so I didn't want to conflict
Well,
matters by bringing this up.
You've got a,
Yeah, there's another one.
you've got a, well, another what? Another, this is showing 21 structures, but I'm assuming, and maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to make a.
That's the variance.
Yeah, so we're looking at the variance diagram here
Yeah.
for this. So, my question is, what exactly are the size of those lots?
The size of the lots, the
Heading ahead, looking at whether the,
We're trying to, and this one, he's seeking for approval for a cluster development.
Yeah. that- and the other
Not,
stuff
we
there-
haven't gotten into the individual,
So I can't ask about
not the next
sizes
case.
and,
In theory, the smaller the lot size, the more environmentally friendly and the more accurate we would be meeting what the town voted on of approving cluster developments. He meets the size requirement, the density requirement. So regardless of what size each individual lot is, they all, the 20, how many acres, I apologize, is almost
21 total.
acres, and he only has to have 20 square feet set
I see,
aside.
and I see this
Yes.
figure, which is basically, I had to blow it up, but
Yeah.
when you divide, I
The
don't know,
gross
9,000 something or other by 20, you actually get 45. So,
Correct.
so this is your, that's for single-family homes, though.
Are you talking about this plan?
No, I'm talking about
Correct. So
the
45,
special exemption says single-family homes.
Right, 45 housing units, but it
Right.
also allows for condominiums.
I'm aware of that, yeah. So,
That's the variance, which we're not dealing with now.
no, I'm not, this is a special exemption with cluster, is what which is why I'm not going ahead here, I'm trying to get an idea of how it was able to come about that they could put this kind of density in here. That's my question.
That is in your zoning, the town of Newport.
I know, yeah.
So if they didn't go for the variance for the duplexes, which I still question whether it's required. However, again, they can sleep well at night and everyone else can, but that's your next subject. They could separate all these 45 units, still cluster development by 10 feet apart, and there would be, it still is absolutely fine to do. You need the special exception, not the variance.
I understand.
And the town of Newport voted on that. So the town of Newport decided the density.
I understand.
Oh, I thought that's where you're asking where
No,
it comes
I'm
from. Oh, it
just
came
trying to
from the
make
town.
sure I understand what's
Yeah,
being presented
It came
here.
from the
And
town of Newport.
because this is, okay, I'm looking at the plan here, so. And I can see it's hard to read here, but I looked at the calculations.
Would you like the full size?
No, I got it. I
Blew it up, all right.
I use my other eyes,
Sure.
which is my camera, so, okay.
It leaves a lot of open green space. I think that's the concept of cluster housing, and it's less violation of like where you just give everyone 2 acres and you annihilate, everything.
The entirety of the parcel.
The entirety of the parcel. You get, in theory, more natural life that stays on the property as it lives now.
Less sprawl and more open space.
Right,
All right,
exactly.
Any other questions, comments from neighbors, abutters? Go ahead and just state who you are and
I'm Betty Avery. I abut you completely on this side. All that land there, 300 acres is mine. I'm not really sure what cluster, I know what a cluster is. I'm looking that your roadway would be coming right out of the Corbin Bridge Road. That would be the road, basically.
Sorry,
give or
Mr. Chair,
take.
I don't wanna-
yeah.
Is that?
At least conceptually, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then it looks like it's almost like a cul-de-sac, I would say. Now, my question is, I know someone said, is this going to be like individual homes or like a big building and might be 4 condos or townhouses or whatever you call them?
You could direct the question to the chairman.
Oh, okay. And how high? Is it 1 story or is there going to be another 4-story monstrosity?
Go ahead.
I can answer these if.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, as currently proposed, and obviously depending on how everything transpires, everything's subject to change, right? So at least conceptually, and again, we would need to go through, for this process, we need to go through the planning board process.
I realize that, but what is your...
So currently proposed and included in the variance, which we will hopefully get to, these would be 2-family or duplexes. So 2-family on a single floor.
Spencer, didn't you have pictures of a vision?
There are some pictures. I don't know how.
They don't have them. I think it would be beneficial to show what you're at least considering, and that then this would be addressed at the planning board level.
And then, Christina, I'm not sure what the allowed height would be, but we're not.
Could go up to 40 feet.
Yeah, we're not exceeding a height variance on any of this.
So these are 1-story buildings, not 2 stories.
This is kind of the intended use, so they're probably truss marks, so it's a story and a half in terms of gross height. But
this is what you call a duplex, I see that. Now, how many of these are you saying are going to fit around that?
Currently, conceptually proposed is with 21. So that would be 42 units total for the site.
Okay.
21 individual buildings.
21 individual buildings, correct.
And all abutters, just to make clear, will be notified again when they go to planning board if anyone is concerned about look or whatever.
May I have that?
Sure.
Okay.
I think we have copies right there.
I want to show my son. My other question, you mentioned somewhere along with, or he mentioned somewhere along his talking, sewage. You're putting every house or one of these is going to have a septic tank.
So you're correct. So obviously everything, you need a approved septic system
I
to get a
realize
building
that.
permit. The way I've typically done designs like these in the past is we kind of divorce the use as much as possible. But I guess there'd be one shared leach field, but I typically try to do 2 individual tanks so that each one is serviced with its own sewer line, its own tank, and own sewer line to a shared leach field. But the sharing will be just between the 2 units at the building.
Okay.
So each lot will have its own septic system.
Do you realize that's flooding now?
So there is flood.
There's flood.
Wait.
Hey, I've lived here all, whoops.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. You asked the question. Go ahead and answer.
So there is flood zone in here, and we have to design around it to some extent.
My question either to him, I'm just wondering, I'm just picturing a bunch of septic tanks, and I've lived here all my life.
Sure.
I've lived on that farm all my life. and let me tell you, it floods every single year. This year, it's been horrible. I'm just picturing all that water going in. I don't know how septic tanks were going, and then you've got all this, plus we're on a water aquifer. Across the river, across the road, is gonna be another town well. I'm just afraid of stuff getting affected. I don't know if that has anything to do with this meeting or not, but those are.
I don't think that's within our
Okay, but.
jurisdiction, if you will. I mean, if they were going to get, if it's wetlands, they have to get approval from
Okay.
planning and zoning.
The state will.
In the state.
Approve the septic, but go ahead and answer what, ways you looked at what's wetlands and.
Yeah, all I was going to say, I don't know what the published elevation of the airport is offhand. I did at one point.
780. 786.
Thank you.
786.
So the high spot here is 830. So we're the high spot's 45. To get feet above, we're going to have to cut that down. That fill will be moved on site.
That's MSL.
But yeah, anything that's within the flood zone, we have to design around. But you also have to consider everything else that's in Newport and its watershed that's also within the 100-year flood zone that currently exists.
So the way I'm understanding looking at that, if everything's approved or whatever,
To,
when you go down, I'm calling it your driveway.
Sure.
We're gonna be hooking off to the left. You're building in the sandbank area only?
We're going to the high side. So we would be going north towards.
Yes, yeah, you're coming out of Corbin Road, shoot across the highway.
And going west.
You're not doing anything to the right of your driveway.
Not currently, and that's part of why we're seeking a special exception, because if the special exception were denied, then we would be obligated.
How are you gonna build on that when it's floodland?
You can build on 100-year flood zone. I don't necessarily think it's prudent, but there's not a lot of limitations to
Well,
it. But that's another reason why we'd be looking for the special exception. Again, is we can condense the construction to areas that are most suitable for development.
and leave the wetlands open.
Leave the that's what I'm looking
And
at.
Yeah, and that's what cluster allows you to do, is cluster everything in the,
Yes,
the
that
dry corner and.
That I understand.
And you could not build in the wetlands.
Right.
There's difference between a flood zone and wetlands.
Correct.
This is wetland.
Well, okay, you just mentioned flood, just
Well,
understanding there's a
it
difference.
floods.
Yeah, we're getting.
They have no ability to violate those wetlands.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead.
Mary Ann and Mike Picani, and we live on the property that's between Airport Road and Corbin.
Okay.
And we got significant flooding from water on across the street, where you're talking about on that lower level. You could see the water where it came over towards the road and cut across, and we got flooded.
So it stages up at the culvert and then goes across at the DOT culvert.
There's a culvert, and it comes out onto our property in this corner area, evidently.
Under the highway.
Under the highway, evidently. And then it cuts across Corbin. And with all the water that was there, it came across, but then it went our way because there was so much. It also did go over Corbin, but we got totally flooded. So I would like to know how that would get taken care of so that we're not getting any more of this drainage coming onto our property.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So we can't do too much with the DOT culvert. The state's not going to allow that. I can probably get you a contact person for who to get after if the culvert needs to be rectified. But as part of this design, to meet the town regs and also state regulations, we're going to have to design for stormwater to AOT standards, which means that there's no peak in runoff over pre-existing, and there's no increase in runoff over pre-existing. Meaning, the proposed development will not make the drainage worse than what it is. If you have a pre-existing, not so great situation, granted, we've had some significant rains. I don't know what this applicant can do to help you out with that, but the proposed development by design will not make anything worse from a drainage perspective with PU stamps.
But didn't you say something about building up the road or building down the road?
Mhm.
Or
So in order to compensate for that, we have to include stormwater management practices.
yeah, because of the runoff. Because this year, yes, we got astronomical amount of rain.
Mhm.
But even every past
Spring and March.
umpteen years that
yeah.
I've lived here, we've always had it. I mean, and I know they've flooded over there because prior to whoever they bought the land from, my brother used to own it and used to flood the field out all the time. So I know what she's talking
Sure.
about.
So we'll have to include some, we just kind of have some, pretty conceptual drainage basins, but there'll have to be stormwater management all throughout this proposed development. Such that we are retaining the water long enough for it to weep out at the rate that it currently does. When we get a 150-year storm or whatever it is, or 3 inches of rain in an hour,
Everyone's in trouble.
yeah, I don't,
So what you're
I
talking.
can tell you that this proposal won't exacerbate an existing.
What you're talking is
Issue.
settling ponds if you need them.
Oh, yeah, we will need them, absolutely.
Because you're
In the edge.
replacing all that sand where water would just percolate straight through with asphalt and houses, and that water is going to run off. You need to be able to retain that
Correct.
runoff created by the construction on the sand in order to hold it long enough so it gets to percolate into the ground at a reasonable rate.
Correct.
Until it does, instead of overfilling and running across the highway and flooding your property and other properties.
Yeah, so we need to offset the impervious area to what it currently is.
At least what it's currently.
At least what it currently is, right.
What's the current elevation of the 21-acre property right there?
It's got a knoll to it. The high spot is just above 840 elevation, and this lowlands is right around 780, 778, 780.
Any other questions?
But it's got it has 2 knolls and a saddle.
So you're basically leveling it out for the most part.
Yeah, general construction practice, you try to balance the site.
Yeah.
All right, Larry?
Yeah, Larry Schisholm, represent the Conservation Commission, and I don't know if maybe I should go to the map to point out some things.
Sure.
So, and Spencer,
Yes.
I think we talked on the phone
Yeah, very
a few
briefly,
months
sure.
or several weeks ago. It's clear that there's been a big operation moving gravel out of here. That may be something the town needs to consider, how much this has been sort of a gravel operation. Nevertheless, what that has done is to this wetlands, especially through these biblical storms and rains we've had, there has been, in the process, a lot of this slope has now, as far as I can tell from the road, been carved out. There was a significant amount of drainage, and now there is clearly a silt deposit in quite a bit of this area here. I don't know if it's technically on the wetlands, but it certainly buffers right to it. And it may be so much so that we actually have a complaint into DES to come out and investigate the wetlands. And these wetlands weren't on the state map, it was actually Meridian who identified them. So let me state for the record, Mark's own surveyor delineated the wetlands as their soil scientists believed it was. There may already be some degradation in that area. So, I think that has to be considered. There is a complaint. Hopefully, right now they're still in the process of formulating hopefully a field trip, generally as part of a DES complaint, to do a field trip and see what's going on. Clearly, no matter what happens, and if there is a development go on here, I see it as at least several units too much, because no matter what, this is just going to change the slope and do an awful lot, I believe, to the wetlands and, you know, the green spaces. Not going to be a green space for the spring peepers. You know, herons have been seen in there, egrets. This is a natural area, and it's going to be severely impacted no matter what, as it already has. So I think that has to be considered. Number two, there has been already a lot of work changing the slope here, and generally this is all sitting over the aquifer. The town approved not all that long ago a well to be drilled in North Newport that may be, and there's an enormous aquifer, so I think no matter what, there needs to be real consideration as to what all this is already doing and what it will do in the future for the aquifer, for percolation into the groundwater, etc. Because, and there's a lot of federal money riding on this, because we have significant federal money for the well, and eventually making this a secondary source of town water. So it's a significant aquifer. So all of what's going to happen here, if anything happens here, has to be, and certainly what's already been happening with the gravel operation, needs to be considered as it may impact the aquifer and our future plans for water for the town. I'm not sure it's inconsistent with the master plan of 2012, but if you read through our master plan, North Main Street, Route 10, down from Croydon, was believed to be like one of the most important areas or entry portal points for the town to preserve. And right now, once you get past the trees, you see Betty's magnificent barn. You know, so I think just though these may be built in a very, you know, eye-pleasing way, generally I think you want to be true to the master plan, and what attracts people to our downtown is they come around that corner and they see that magnificent barn. So you know, there may be stuff up on hidden by the berm, and that may be the kind of thing that we want to think about. What's visible, just something to consider. And lastly, Betty's land has been open forever. Hunting, trails to access Coit Mountain. It did cross property, but this area was always considered a parking spot for people who wanted to access the backside of Coit Mountain for all sorts of recreational things. You know, if there is a future development in this area, I think we really want to consider access easements, you know, to access Betty's land, which, like I said, she's never closed that land. Always had been a great neighbor, letting people use her property for all those trails. So I think that's really ought to be considered as well.
And what was your name again, sir?
I'm Schissel. I live up in North Newport. I don't live in Newport. I live in New York.
Okay, and this is, does the DES anticipate any issues with the aquifer by carving into the mountain and changing the landscape right there? I mean,
I don't know. I'm not a hydrologist. I only know that water gets to the aquifer through percolation, among other things.
Yeah.
You know, this aquifer is enormous. It goes right up to Croydon. It goes well up, you know, probably as far as the Sugar River.
Your septic system's probably sitting on it.
It's an enormous aquifer, so this may be a small portion of the whole deal, but again, I think it ought to be part of consideration, not only as it pertains to zoning and allowing cluster housing and the amount of building in this area, but you know, ultimately then to the planning board to either grant or or not grant or grant with some modifications to the whole deal.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a
Yeah,
comment?
sure.
They could build without any need for any approval. The 42 homes, all on 20,000
20,000.
I apologize, 20,000 square foot lots, which would be more harmful to an environment, the wetlands, and everything. But that would need no approval. Just throwing it out there.
No relief, no relief.
Right,
Yeah.
right, no approval via you
So
for a special
what-
exception.
Someone in the audience, a question, could that be translated again?
What they're asking for is permission to tuck them all in the gravel bank, not spread them out all over the whole property.
Well, they certainly can't use any of this land unless they get a wetlands.
They can't use the
dredge
1
and
acre.
fill kind of thing, and they'd have to go
But
through
that-
the
that-
state to
That's what
get.
the special exception is for, is to tuck them in one corner, not spread them out.
Right, but just as I said, there is at least part of this that really looks like it's not going to be a very good buffer for that wetlands, and whether they have to fill it or not is eventually going to get filled, just by the nature of what's being done to the topography here, and the scouring and all the, So, I only say there may be a reason to, someday to have houses here. The grand number may be at least partly wrong. And certainly I believe on the south side of this Portland area, some of these are really allow for no buffer for the wetlands. So that wetlands will be gone eventually without some kind of buffer and planning from our side of this question.
Thanks, Larry. And on the aquifer, I mean, the idea of a septic system is to let it percolate into the aquifer and be clean when it gets there.
I'm just throwing out, I just
I know
hope
you're just
it
throwing
goes
everything,
into all
hoping
the
something sticks
concepts,
to-
because sometimes things that aren't really part of the calculus. I just want to make sure it's part of the calculus.
And that's why.
Because I know nothing about this stuff other than there's a big aquifer there. It
And that's
gets
what
charged
and
with
that's
water.
what DES does.
We change the surface, what does that do? Maybe nothing. A scientist who works in hydrology will say yes, no big deal. But it's a question for a scientist.
And if there are settling ponds, it'll be less.
But
with
clearly
an
there
open
will be
with an open gravel pit. Currently, there is stuff or open gravel.
But there will be an investigation. Well, there was a complaint filed to DES, and hopefully this area will be investigated by the state as what's already happened and has already made an impact in that area.
But if this area is pavement and grass, there's going to be less gravel washing into that wetland, right?
You can't.
But pavement also then needs to be offset by
settling ponds and
and where are they going to go? Again, there's really no buffer.
Yeah, we're getting into a back and forth. Which,
planning board.
These are the things we see from an environmental side. Okay. Thanks.
There's also significant state oversight. They can't, with any construction, if it was to harm or violate that acre, they'd have to modify.
Okay.
And I'm happy to address any or all those comments.
Yeah, go ahead, yes.
Let's see, so part of the intent of why we're here, obviously we're seeking the special exception, and then obviously the subsequent variance. This is engineering light, what you're looking at right there, because you don't want to get into X amount of thousands of dollars doing a design that ultimately needs zoning board approval and then gets denied. So this is really kind of the gateway to the design and permitting process of this. That's why I kind of disclaim everything with a little bit of a conceptual component. So you're right, maybe all these units can't fit. Maybe they can. We may even be able to fit more. I don't know. It's not that I don't, 2D they fit, but we need to grade this in accordance with alteration of NHDES, the Alteration of Terrain Bureau. We're going to need a DOT access permit. We actually highlighted all the permits and approvals that we would need along this, in this portion of the plan. So, and consideration of easements for access, part of the intent of the open space is to provide some of these areas of access. If this were to be conventional, which if the special exception was denied, it'd go conventional, and that land would all be private. And there'd be no control over the open space parcel. In terms of the siting of the abutting well, I would hope that whomever planned that or did that was prudent enough to recognize the land uses beyond, or the land capabilities of beyond that parcel. Meaning you don't have the right to install a well and rob your neighbor of their development rights for that, and or dictate it without just compensation. And that kind of goes to the point of North Newport or the Scenic Gateway. If there's a no-build zone in town, I think that should be specified in the zoning ordinance, or height characteristic, put it in a historical district, whatever it needs to be.
We have a height restriction, but I don't think that's even
yeah, I think it's a single story.
For this, no, but there is a restriction.
So we're intending of adhering to all of the other zoning and planning regulations of the town at this point.
Anything else?
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are these, I know, let's say I'm calling them duplexes here. So people are gonna buy their it's two families can live in one building, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So family number one buys their unit and family two, or is all of these being rented out, or do you know what I'm trying to ask?
Mark, I mean.
So they'll all be sold individually, so you'll own your half.
Your half, so
Yeah.
like you could own one half of the building, I own half. If I want
Correct.
to sell my half, I can go ahead
Correct.
and sell. Okay, I didn't know if they were going to be rented out to people like a low workforce or whatever the new term is. Okay, it's individual.
kind of like River Road.
Basically, market rate. Yeah. Real
It's
estate.
the only thing that's really viable, unfortunately.
So, in access, these are actually condominiums, right?
Pretty
I was
much.
just gonna-
They're
Isn't
duplexes.
that the definition?
They truly are single-family homes that are not divided by 10 feet. That's all they are.
They share a common wall.
They share a common wall.
Yeah, it's
Because what's odd about our zoning, and I believe that it's a slight flaw, we define single-family homes as a freestanding home not attached to another home. However, the cluster development includes condominiums in the allowed use,
Which we don't define.
which a condominium is typically, because I went and looked it up, we don't define it just right, is a structure that can have 2 or 1,002 units in it, or 10,002, anything more, any structure. And it has nothing to do with money associated with the condominium. The condominium is just the structure itself.
So he's doing 2 units, which sounds like a condominium from what you just said.
Yeah, we used to,
Separate.
We had the discussion last time.
And I went to legal, and legal said it's confusing because we state what a single-family home states, that it has to be a standalone home not attached to another home, and that we shouldn't, and that it was a confusing. So I was doing this variant, the next one. See, we're talking about the next one. I was doing it almost as a double shack because I also am questioning whether the duplexes are allowed or not.
well, it's the same thing on Riverbend,
All right, let's do the cluster.
Riverbend
Yeah,
Road.
we
I
need
mean,
to-
is that,
Yeah,
Yes.
Special
let's do the
exemption.
cluster.
That might not
So-
be. I'd have to check the zone on Riverbend and check what they got. But
well, it's, okay.
How big is it a 2-bedroom each one, a 2-bedroom, or?
These are
varies?
currently 3 as shown, yeah.
So if it's 3, you don't expect kids now.
I don't know if you could read this, but there's kind of some rough floor plan there.
So you're.
Obviously, there's probably going to be some flexibility in how that
1, 2,
gets.
3 bed, yeah. So the
Do you-
chances are there's gonna be kids, not that I'm against kids, but I'm thinking Route 10, is very dangerous. Okay.
Thank you.
Any,
Mr. Chair?
oh, sorry, yes.
One question. Under, let's see, with your questions you need to answer, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the overall character of the neighborhood by reason of undue variation from the nature of other uses in the vicinity, including scale. The cluster development. Could you please tell me how large the lots are? Because that deals with scale.
So the individual lots are small. I believe we have them, 20,000 square feet is the town minimum that they would need to be. I believe we actually need to be over that to meet the state minimum septic sizing, which is a function of the soil type and also the slope of the site. So the flatter and sandier it is, the smaller the lot can be. And if you're serviced by water, I believe you're afforded 30,000 square feet. So they're probably around 30,000 square feet. Let's say 20 to 30,000 square feet per lot, which is significantly smaller, but that's the intent of the cluster development, is to collapse it all. So what could be on 2, 3, 5 acres is condensed into a smaller area such that the remainder portion can be held in open space.
So each unit would be on, you said 20 or 30.
Yeah, and that's going to have to get worked out.
I have no idea. I know what 3 feet looks like.
Well, it's
so
a
that's
half to 2/3 of an acre.
20,000
is about half an acre.
Yeah, there's 43,560.
Okay, so that's like the houses across the field from me. All right.
For the zone, the required lot size that is fed with water or sewer, they can make it 20,000 square feet. So pretend there's no cluster. You could still have roughly the 40, you could have 40 houses.
He's saying state regs maybe
20.
a little bigger.
Maybe even bigger.
Yeah.
They're going to be bigger.
That's where the minimum will allow us.
So, yeah. So 20,000 just under half an acre. All right, any other questions?
And that's half an acre for each half of the, or is that half an acre for the full duplex?
Again, so
It's a little over that.
That'd be for each lot,
Yeah.
but we need the size, so if they're going to be 3 bedrooms, we need 900 gallons per day, 450 gallons per
But
side.
essentially, a duplex would then get about an acre because it'd be about a half acre, 20,000 feet.
Probably
square.
not, probably not.
A little under though, but roughly.
Because you're allowed to cut the state sizing in half if you're not serviced by an on-site well. They
So
base
say-
everything assuming you're going to have a well on site.
So that could be something like 10,000 square feet
Per-
of
again,
land.
yeah, we're probably going to be around 20 to 30,000 square feet per building
Yeah,
lot,
okay, yeah.
which is intended to have
All right,
2
yeah.
dwelling
I
units.
got it, thanks.
Going to cluster. Any other questions? All right, move to close it to the board.
Move to go into deliberation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. I have a question on this case. The request for special exempt from terms to allow for a cluster development.
That's not what we're discussing yet.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the one now.
Yeah,
Okay.
cluster development, special
Yeah.
exemption.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Which it's allowed by
Okay.
special exception.
So we have a request for a cluster development, and we are presented with this. So am I being asked to approve a development of 42 units?
No.
Or am I just being asked to?
No.
Okay, so no, it's just a cluster development.
They cannot exceed the maximum density that is in our zoning, so they can't come in with 100 units, because there's no land for it. They are constricted, virtually.
Understood. That is, I wanted that clarified.
Yeah, they're constricted,
Okay.
they
So
could
this
not-
is based on his calculation, which is up in that upper side,
Yeah.
which goes to a total number of square feet for 21 acres divided by 2,000 square feet
20,000.
20,000 square feet, yes.
That's at least, yes,
Yes.
at least.
Okay.
If not more.
For this because in this one, it's in this particular application, they're going by the ordinance which says, you know, cluster development of single-family homes.
Correct.
So
It's cluster development of single-family homes. Each one has to be on a piece of property at a certain size.
okay, but that's not within our jurisdiction. All we're doing is approving a cluster. Can they put a cluster in there?
As long as it does not.
Well,
To
they've
the
got to.
maximum
It's
That's got to go through before the zoning board.
We are the zoning board.
Huh? You
The
mean the
planning
planning and
board.
zoning?
No, it
Planning
says the
and
minimum size is 20,000 square feet.
Yes.
So if you look at this,
They're actually.
if you look at this, if you blew this up,
Yeah.
he would equate 21 acres to so many square feet.
Yeah.
Divide that number by 20,000, and he comes up with a number of units. You can actually just still see it there. Okay, that's what we're being asked
Not
to.
where they are, not.
Not where they are, not
Drainage.
not drainage, not.
Question for the applicant.
Go ahead, yes.
With the cluster development, the homes are closer together, less than the 20,000 square foot for the single detached, family home in the area. So you have larger areas of open space. Is there like a homeowner association for common ownership and access to that open space for all the people in your development? That's part of the cluster.
So I don't think
Or is it just
Newport
that?
has a regulation regarding regarding that remainder piece and how it's held in open space. In other communities, but I've done work in HOA, common interest, meaning, let's say we do get 42 units, then in each one of the deeds, it would say, okay, you own, unit 23, but you also get a 1/42nd share interest in the larger open
Right.
space, which reduces the need for the HOA. I've had towns take easement, and then the other alternative is typically it remains with the pieces, but then is under easement. And then the question is, well, who's the easement holder?
Yeah.
The de facto tends to be the town's conservation commission. A lot of conservation commissions are getting away from that because there is some stewardship and management issues that are created from that.
Dealing with the tenants or owners that own the adjoining
Yeah, it's a lot to ask of a volunteer board. And then there's also, third-party conservation organizations. Or, I suppose it's a situation like this, perhaps even a lot line adjustment to remove that open space into a larger parent lot would maybe be something that could
With
be.
cluster development, with single-family homes that you're selling on individual half-acre lots, you'd look for a subdivision of the whole parcel. And do that.
Correct.
How does that work with cluster? You get smaller subdivisions and then you have this large parcel off to the side, correct?
Yeah, and you would call it out as an open space piece on the plan. But anything over 5 acres in size doesn't require state subdivision approval at all. So it would only be the 21 lots that are generated would need the state subdivision approval. They still need AOT and all their stuff, but the state just assumes if it's over 5 acres in size, it's going to be a non-issue from a subsurface perspective. And the subsurface bureau is actually who issues the subdivision approval. So, yeah, when we do it holistically. We do it all at once. So in other words, if you're asking if we're to come back for another subdivision,
Well, that would
is
be
that where
to
you're
the
kind of
planning,
alluding?
that would be to the planning board
Correct.
subdivision, not us.
Correct.
That's, with that and all the other stuff they deal with, it would be planning board.
Correct. So it would be one application to the planning board that would depict that as the open space parcel.
Okay, thank you.
So, what we're doing for this special exception is just, and cluster is allowed by special exception, we're just allowing them, we're not doing the number of units or where they're going, that's all site plan and DES and
Well, and
such.
restrictions,
Except-
zoning restrictions,
except-
put the limit.
except
Zoning
that-
restrictions limit.
It's with the limit,
Right, yeah,
okay, but that's what we're being asked to approve.
right, up to. yeah,
Right, but we don't have to approve it,
No,
okay,
You could put in the conditions.
that's right.
Cannot exceed the maximum density, does not exceed provided in section 206.4. If you're, but it's not allowed to exceed that, it would be, in fact, but you could absolutely, which is the lot size.
But it's up to that. It can be anything under that.
Absolutely,
That's what,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. It can be, there's a max.
can be.
We don't have to approve the max. We can approve something less than the max.
Although you could write, if you were worried at all, cannot exceed.
I don't understand what the question is.
The question is, we're being asked to approve, grant a special exemption for the size of this piece, 21 acres,
Yep.
and using this 2,000 square feet per. Okay, we're asked to say, which by his math, the applicant's math, is 42 units.
20,000 square foot.
Oops, keep dropping the comma, right. By that math, 42 single family, which we're doing because this is special exemption now. But we don't have to say we approve 42 units. We can say we could approve something else
Why would we say anything about the number of units?
because of the questions that we're going to be asked here, which is, A, B, and C. So, that could be, there could be something in terms of the proposed use will be, will not be.
Now, with the 21 acre lot, the developer could decide to subdivide it into 42 individual lots,
45.
whatever.
Correct.
And put 45 single-family detached houses up. And
Then he
we-
wouldn't be
we-
asked-
We would not be here tonight.
Correct, but he's not doing that. He's asking for a special exemption for cluster housing.
right.
Right.
But the number of units in the cluster housing does not have to be 42.
Why?
We can arbitrarily think, well, let's see,
Well,
I'll do
yeah,
20.
I can,
Why,
yeah, I mean,
And that's what it would be. would
I'm
be
making a
arbitrary-
statement,
Yeah,
we're having a
no.
discussion, so.
And that's what it would be an arbitrary
Well,
number.
it's hopefully not arbitrary, like, but, some justification would be given for it.
But what they're asking to do is to make it better for the environment than spreading them all out.
That's what they're asking, yes.
Yes.
We don't necessarily have to agree with that, though.
So you think individual
No,
42 lots
I
would be
did not
better?
say
All
that.
right. So
I
that's,
did not
that's
say, I did not say that.
what, so you're gonna, all right. I
We're
guess what I
talking-
think you're heading is you're
No,
just gonna pull a
I'm
number out of
talking
the hat.
about it, okay, I'll pull a number up,
Yeah.
okay? You've got a development right down the street, okay? Allen Street, okay? In an area of 21 acres, there are no more than 15 homes. It's a number. You're asking me for a number, I'm giving you a justification. So you could say that we would grant this cluster, special exemption for cluster housing, for no more than 15 single-family homes.
If Larry has an acre lot, then Joe can't have a 2 acre lot. I mean, that's it's an arbitrary number.
Okay, you're calling it, an arbitrary number means to me that it doesn't have any justification.
Right.
Okay, it's just, I don't
But
want this, I want that, I'm not going to justify it.
What it means is you can't justify that number in Superior Court.
That's what I was
It needs to
thinking,
be.
it could be easily.
You're going to take me to court? Fine, take me to
Well,
court.
they don't take you to court, they take us to court.
Fine, take us to
So
court.
I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think we should put ourselves in a position to be doing that.
So why are we answering these questions here about and discussing, detrimental, injurious, contrary? I mean,
No, and I don't disagree with you. It's just we need a factual.
Okay, I'm just starting the discussion
Yeah,
here.
no, and that's fine.
And I want to have a discussion about it.
Here's my approach to these three questions, whether things are, whatever they are, what's the term here, detrimental or undue variation or obnoxious or offensive. I don't look at it, it's a blank piece of land right now. We're going to make it obnoxious by putting up housing. I look at it, they could put up 42 separate lots in there, but if we give them the authority to cluster those closer together and then have a larger open space as part of the overall property, is that obnoxious or whatever compared to the 42 individual lots?
All right, I'm going to.
Not compared to a blank piece of land.
I understand that, but if your purpose is open space, you would have more open space with less units in a cluster development.
Right.
In other words, if you have 42 units, like there's so much open space right here with this plan.
Right.
If there were half of those, would you not have more open space?
But that's up to the developer to determine.
Well, no,
it's
what he can say is, I can't make money with 20, I'm going to do 40 individual, and then the environment's screwed. So
I am just talking about a discussion about this. Otherwise, it's just like, yeah, we came in, we just said yes to everything.
No, I hear you, but if you're saying, let's do 20, and they go, 20 isn't going to work, I'll subdivide it and sell individual lots, then the environment loses.
Because that's just one, because then we also have the concept of traffic. Okay?
Yep.
You're going to have 42 units here. There's going to be at least 42 vehicles entering and exiting this one small spot on Route 10. Okay, is that not also a consideration that we have to take into account?
It's not for a cluster.
That's based on, it's a state road.
That's for the state.
It's for the state.
So again, what questions can be
All
asked?
we want to do is ask, do we want to allow them to do what they did on Riverbend Drive? I mean, it's basically a cluster development. It's right over here.
Riverbend might have gotten
Town Star Highway.
I wasn't part of that.
No, I wasn't either, but I lived there for a little while, and that's basically what the heck they're asking for. Can I build a bunch of houses in my...
And I'm hearing that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Yes, they're allowed to be building some houses. How many is up to us, and for whatever reasons.
No,
You're
it's
saying no?
I think because they're following zoning, they're not in violation, it's just the cluster housing. If they then were in violation of not meeting our lot size and maximum density requirements, they'd have to ask for a variance. That you can say no to. But they're following all the rules.
I'm not
And
debating.
nothing's been built yet.
I'm
I mean,
not debating that. I'm saying that is there also the possibility of saying that there's an upper limit to this? Because with 45, 42, you've said 42, but you could do 45 by your math.
Correct.
by the state's map,
By the
by
state's
our
map.
ordinance map.
That's the town's.
The town's map.
The
Town's allowed by right
Right.
density.
I think also if there's wetlands there or such, that'll also create a limit as to what.
And Mr. Sissel raised all kinds of valid points, which isn't our, DES is going to be the arbiter of that, where they can build, how close to wetlands they can build, runoff. Those are all critical, but that's going to be done by site plan and DES. And to me, that's the biggest concern here is wetlands and runoff, but that's not our purview.
Is safety our purview?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the response to my question about safety with vehicles going onto Route 10?
No, in regards to vehicles and traffic, that is not our purview. That would be DES.
Well, what is it doing on this question?
DOT, sorry. Safety could be, with these homes being built, create an unsafe environment for in the town or the neighbors. So it's not a prison in theory. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't think a prison's allowed, but they could ask for a variance. That would be, someone could broach that they would be concerned a prison was built in a residential area and that
And
it
that
would
would
be
be conservative.
unsafe.
So
That-
traffic is not to be considered when you talk about safety.
because we don't own that road.
Well, again, going back to if they built a non-cluster development versus cluster development, what's the change in the number of cars for the same number of residents?
There is none,
So
your point.
the safety difference.
But I
for
don't
a
have
cluster-
anything to say about that situation because I'm not being asked to grant a special exemption.
Yes, you are.
No, in your case,
Right, because,
they're not even here.
right.
All right, and it
And the
truly does
safety-
become, but now that they're here, I'm asking a question.
The safety concerns are addressed with the DOT and the,
And if they're getting dumped off, it's not like these are getting dumped off on the Cheney Street. They're getting dumped off onto a major state highway, and if they were getting dumped off on Cheney Street, we'd ask the police and fire to do the safety thing. The
But here, we're
safety
not going to
assessment.
do that.
No, DOT is going to do that.
But we don't have it as, what I'm hearing is that this is not part of our deliberations.
Yeah, the traffic isn't, if DOT does not give them change of use for the driveway, denies it, based on this many homes and what they believe will add it, if they deny it, this cannot be built. It is not us, and they do, I think, way more safety checks than we would ever do at the town level.
But we aren't to discuss it, is what I'm
Well,
hearing.
you could broach it, but you couldn't deny
Can't
the
make that as
special
a part of
exception
the
based
decision.
on traffic.
Well, I'm trying to, I'm just asking questions here.
Absolutely.
I don't want to just say yes, yes, yes. I want a discussion.
I hear you. But what are the units up in the roof? There's what, 45 units in that building?
Where's this?
The one up the
Spring Street?
No, the cross street, crossing the Ruger building.
that's 70.
Oh, 70 units is going in.
So 70.
And that's been
not
approved.
45.
That's been approved by
Getting
DOT
dumped off
already.
onto
I understand.
a much smaller,
Norris Road.
And
dumped onto a town road and dumped onto a smaller state highway.
I agree, but I really can't, I can express an opinion, but I can't,
Yeah.
it's sort of behind, it's sort of after the fact. you know.
So if you say 45 is too many dumping off onto Route 10, they're going to go say you approved 45 jumping onto, you know.
First of all, you're
and-
going to ask me to say whether I approve of it or not on something that's already been done in the past. And I've been told several times by several people here, I can't look at other cases and judge the results.
That's
of
not
other
true at
cases.
all.
All right, well, you know, each
That's-
case
Well,
is
it's
considered
case by
separate.
provide
It's case by
a
case,
precedent.
but
Okay.
But you have to
So
evaluate this
fine,
on
then I'll go back. I made an argument about Spring Street, about my concern about traffic on Spring Street. Okay, my concern still is the same: is anytime you put in a density of units, you increase the traffic. Okay, I have a concern about the number of cars coming and going and people with this project.
And I think that
Okay.
can be stated absolutely, but it cannot be taken into consideration. That would, again, DOT could deny this based on change of use, and it would never happen. That's their oversight.
So, again, when safety is the word used, are we talking about, you brought up a prison. I mean, okay.
And it could, I'm not saying the prison
you
couldn't
know-
be built there. It's just potential that I think that would be more of the safety issue.
Well, one of the things in C says, you know, the proposal will not be contrary or whatever, public health, safety, and general welfare by reason of undue traffic congestion or hazards that pose a risk of life,
This is
property,
what-
or
this is
unsanitary. You
exactly
can't,
what I'm-
everything that question asks in this scenario is determined by the state. We have nothing to say about the water.
So
We
why
have
is-
nothing to say about the water runoff. The EPA has to establish that.
So if this was not a
So-
state road, we could talk about this. But because it's a state road, we can't talk.
We could talk about it, but nothing's done yet.
Yeah.
So even if they want to do something, all we're doing is saying, okay, you could put more than one duplex in here. Knock yourself out.
Okay, so when
That's
I-
all we're doing with this.
Actually, Spring Street was mandated to do a study. the study came in based on the size and the size of the road and what is generally allowed based on, and I don't know where these rules, if they're federal or state, based on the size and the construction of the road, what they have for maximum usage. And they did need planning board approval because, and the traffic study.
But we considered it in
Because it was a town road,
zoning.
absolutely.
Okay, so that's
Because of
my,
the town road.
that you're answering my question.
Because it was a town
Because
road.
it's not a town road, we don't get to consider.
It's not our purview. DES considers it.
The driveway.
DOT considers it.
Even if we considered it, and we said, well, go ahead, it can change.
Understood, but
So all we're doing is saying, can you put more than one unit in there, in a cluster,
Can you
in an
cluster
area?
the units you're putting in there?
But
Yeah.
even if, like, the driveway permit is DOT, but even if we want to do safety, that's a state highway. It's bigger than any road that we've got stuff coming on, bigger than the one on Cross and Sunapee, bigger than Spring Street stuff, which are been approved by this board. So if we tell them no, they come in and say, you approved X, Y, and Z, we're being treated unfairly.
then that's
But if there is a safety
I
issue,
won't
that
stand for
happens. I mean,
that. Well, no, I won't.
We can't be unfair.
No.
I'm not trying to be
Well,
unfair.
if you're saying that's if we as a board are saying that's safe, this one isn't, that's
Yeah, that's
unfair.
not fair. So, I mean, we
Not
have,
you individually. I understand you may not be happy, but we as a board, we as a town, and I don't agree running 45 out on that's safer than most driveways in town. Is coming out onto the
45 cars going out on the 10 is better than most in town. Okay.
I mean, maybe not most, but it's not an undue.
it's quiet up there.
It's peeing in the ocean.
It's not quiet.
Okay.
there's a description I haven't heard on a board before.
I believe the capacity in that area is around 25 to 30% of what the state regulations allow.
But we
We
don't.
might not like that, but that's about where they're at. That's how so they're going to determine, because there's all the rates, they have all the numbers of how many cars travel North Main Street, the Route 10.
Now, the speed question for you guys: the speed limit changes before this, right? No, or is it at with the speed limit
It's
change?
55, it changes just past the high school.
Yeah, right after the high school.
Yes, it
Yeah.
goes to 55. So at this point, it's 55.
And coming from Croydon,
It's,
I don't know where, that's at the Croydon line.
yes.
It changes over
Yes.
to 55.
No, it's
And
at
they
the
go
flat.
over-
No, it's at the flats it changes.
Pardon?
At the flats it
It
Yeah,
changes.
it's flat.
Because I think it's 40,
It's 40 through the flat, but it's
40.
a 55 zone at Corbin Road.
yeah.
And that might be something that DOT might want to.
Right, if they felt it
One of
unsafe, they either deny the change of use, or I would assume they change the speed limit, but I don't understand, I don't know if DOT, how that works, but they definitely could deny their request for change of use. The original use for this driveway that was approved was for a gravel pit. And they based it on, and I don't know how many trucks or cars were approved, what a gravel pit is by the state. I could probably find that out, but this is obviously, I do believe, more vehicles in and out, and so that's why the change of use needs to be approved.
So this was approved for a
Gravel
pit?
Ruger used to own it and run it as a gravel pit. Yeah, I
This
believe-
place?
No,
Yeah,
up the
this
street. Up
land.
the street.
No, up the street yeah, okay.
Their property exactly was run as a gravel pit.
And certainly a passenger car pulling out and getting up to speed with traffic is probably a little quicker than a fully loaded dump truck.
Yeah.
And they're slow.
But I could see the speed limit of 35.
But that would be,
going further up.
absolutely, that would be up to them. I think we can maybe request that as a
It's
town.
something we can request.
That would be up
But
to,
as far as for the cluster development, I'll go back to my statement. We're talking about the same number of cars pulling onto that road as if they were individual 20,000 square foot lots. We're not changing the allowed number of cars pulling on from a 21 acre lot.
You're
The
making,
cars are all parked closer together at night.
you're making a statement, we're not going to change anything. Yes. that's true. If we're not going to change anything. What you say is true. The same number of cars, whether it's a cluster development or not. So,
And that's what we're looking at right now.
understood.
Okay, we're ready to, we've been deliberating.
I'm ready to vote.
Bring it on.
Okay, section A.
Make a motion that the proposed use will not be detrimental to the overall character of the neighborhood by reason of undue variation from the nature of other uses in the vicinity, including design, scale, noise, and odor, and that standard A has been met.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm nay.
So I was hoping you'd be in discussion. Why you
Well,
weren't.
okay.
Um,
I do not agree that it is scale or design. Those are the two things I would say that it does not agree with. In the neighborhood. There's nothing like this in the neighborhood. So that's why I'm voting nay.
I'll agree, but I'm also, as I said, I'm looking at what the changes between what would be allowed without coming to us and what would be there with us, so.
Okay?
And that's why I feel there's.
I agree. I mean, I'm just looking at it as that picture by itself. What happens if we don't, if they could do anything they wanted without the cluster approval?
Right, and the fact is that the zoning ordinance, which the town approved, allows for a development of half-acre lots in there.
Yeah, and I think all the concerns with runoff and that stuff, and they may not be able to, I know it's not our purview, but I'm saying they're important.
Right.
But they will be addressed by DES and the
They're
wetlands
outside.
and the
And
conservation.
DOT.
Yeah.
And DOT. And as far as,
The actual number of units that can get in there is to be determined based
Yeah.
upon all that.
right, and this allows them to be tucked on the high ground and leave more wetlands and leave more open space than letting them spread out. Even if it were 20 spread out, this is better than, well, you made your point. I'm going to.
I'm letting you. I'm not saying stop. I'm not going to argue.
But even with 20 units on 2 acres spread out is, I think, uses up more land needlessly than this does. That's where I'm coming from.
I hear you.
Okay, so we're 3 to 1. All right, B.
I'll make a motion that proposed use will not be injurious, noxious, or offensive, or in any other way detrimental to the neighborhood, and that standard B has been met.
I'll second it, but there really, as we discussed before, there is no neighborhood. It's just, it's becoming, it's trying to become a neighborhood.
I don't agree with
Yeah,
that.
no, I think
There's a neighborhood there.
There's a neighborhood
and
there.
There's a neighborhood. There's a character.
Well, yeah.
I don't agree with that.
And again, I'm looking at what would be allowed by zoning without coming to us and what we're looking at here with a cluster development.
Well, there could be commercial structures on this property too, and it's staying residential, and for the most part, besides the airport, everything is residential in the neighborhood. If you,
So
yeah.
there's properties
It's
at the
staying.
airport that are not residential.
There are properties at the airport that are not residential.
Right.
Besides the airport, excluding the airport, it is all residential around there. There isn't much commercial, and so they're kind of keeping that building residential in the character of the neighborhood instead of commercial, which is an option in the rural zone.
From my understanding is really if you're coming down what Mr. Sissel was talking about, coming down when you see the barn, that's pretty much still going to be the view, because these guys are going to be behind the berm, all except for maybe the ones to the south of the driveway. Is that?
And it's not a no construction zone.
We really don't have a final, I mean, this is a proposed layout, all this is conceptual. I mean, he must have said it about 8 million times. It's conceptual. So we don't have a final layout of what it's going to be.
We don't know what planning board
would approve, right? We don't know what they're going to, yeah. So,
they'll get to pose the hard questions.
Yeah.
And we could make as a condition of approval that there be a berm with vegetation on it to hide them.
I'd say we'd recommend that to the planning board to consider.
But
I don't know the.
No, we can do it. We've done it before.
There's a lot of considerations made, and I would think that they would take that into consideration for landscaping and mitigation of view potentially at the planning board level, yeah.
So they want a berm to block the view of the barn?
No, just of the houses.
And I didn't mean if there's no neighborhood there. I didn't mean.
I cringed when you said.
Yeah, no, I didn't. See, where I come from, the neighborhood is like the size of this downtown area. So I mean,
to them, the neighborhood is what's.
That's right. Yeah. So
and honestly, a berm could benefit this development because it could help block traffic.
Highway noise, yeah.
Route 10, which is a state highway.
Yeah.
All right. So we've done B. Have we voted on B?
No, we haven't voted on B, have we?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, injurious. I would, injurious. I don't see an injuriousness. Obnoxious, noxious. That sounds to me like poisonous or some smelly or something. Offensive. I'm, if you're changing the nature of the neighborhood, it can be construed as offensive. So, and I think that's what we have here. So.
And I hear that.
I know you. Okay.
And if I live next to a vacant lot and I look out at this beautiful vacant lot and my neighbor builds and somebody buys that lot and builds a house on it, that can be offensive. But you have every right. I mean, that's.
I did look at it that way. I looked at it as density, shape, size, terrain, etc. So,
as my uncle, the realtor, says, you don't own that vehicle. Unless you have a deed to it.
Doesn't mean you don't have an opinion about it.
But we'll tax you for it.
Yes, that's generally when he's talking about.
Yes.
I don't own the view. How can they tax me for it? But
I think the point with not obnoxious or whatever is you'd have to make a point that a dwelling, a home, is obnoxious to build, and it is offensive. And that would be a very hard thing to sell because we all live in dwellings, and I don't. That would be very hardcore to sell that building a home, a residency is offensive to the surrounding. I think that's where it might go legally if you thought that this was offensive to the surrounding area. That's an opinion that can
Well, we haven't taken a vote on this one yet.
okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay.
Public health, safety, and general welfare, person under traffic, congestion hazard, pose a risk to life, property, or unsanitary, create unhealthful waste disposal, or unhealthful conditions.
Did you just make that motion?
No, I just read it.
All right, well, I'll make that motion that it will not be contrary to all of that, and that standard C has been met.
I'll second.
All I need to say is you have my opinion on traffic, which apparently I don't have an opinion on.
No, you do. Yes, you do.
Well, you have an opinion on it.
Well,
There's
it's
nothing wrong
just
with
I
that.
don't seem to be able to express it. So,
Well, we just don't agree with you.
Okay. And that's
You
fine.
can express
No,
it.
I will say I may agree with your concerns.
Yeah,
But I look at it-
absolutely, but
As I said,
Okay.
the individual houses versus clusters, what I am looking at right here, which is what I feel, the only thing we should look at.
And
And
I think
and
we've
the
talked this
traffic,
we talked this to death because you're assuming a specific number, a maximum number. I'm saying that it doesn't have to be that, but you're saying we can't consider that. So,
I'm saying-
Not for just the cluster.
no, I disagree.
We haven't gotten
I think
to
we
that.
could,
No, we could.
we can say any.
We could say you can put 20,
Yeah,
period.
yeah.
And we'd end up,
But we're not. But we're not saying that here. We're
So for this, even if we said you can put 20, we haven't specified what type of dwelling yet, because this is
yeah.
just a cluster. All we're doing is say, put a bunch of them in here, in an area.
But there is a reasonable rationale with the 20 per whatever, and
Yeah.
yes, we could. And my thing was that would be arbitrary. If we said, well, I think 40 is too many. Let's do 20.
yeah.
And
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
to me that's
Okay.
arbitrary without
Okay.
having.
a justification for it.
Well,
And DES may well come up with that.
Again.
Like these 5 are going to incringe on the wetlands, you can only do 35. And that is justified by it's going to be too close to the wet area, what Mr. Schissel was talking about. The ones on the end may not fly with wetlands, and they will have a specific soil type. And
I
Rather than
understand
just
all of
going-
that, but the decision making is not here. It's with DES. It's with the planning board. It's everything. I'm talking about the decision here
Right.
for a number, and okay, fine. It's arbitrary. There has to be justification. Well, that's not what we're talking about.
yeah, and I think it's too many. I don't think it's a legal justification.
I think
You
it's
could
not
still
legal
disagree.
because since we already allow 45 units on the property, wait, no, not 45. Is it 45?
You could have
We
45.
already allow that. You'd have to come up with a rationale why conserving land and the environment would make it more harmful to vote it down. Because we already allow, without any zoning approval, 45. I do think it would be, this is my opinion as an administrator, very difficult to make a rationale that by them conserving the environment, they have to make less than what we allow by ruining the environment. In theory, I don't believe homes ruin environment. We all need a place to live. But the nature of cluster housing is a protection of the environment. I'm just saying, I do think legally that'd be a very hard thing to stand on. I believe. You can make that decision.
Okay.
Was there a second? I made that motion for second.
Yeah, I said second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
And what I'd like to do is put on the condition that there be the berm on north of the driveway. Do I have any takers on that?
I believe there's a unit right there in this proposal right here. You mean a berm along the road?
Yeah, isn't that what you said it's
Didn't we
gonna,
already hear that there's already an existing one in the right of way?
is that,
The land slopes up there, so when we cut down the land on the inside, it'll be a berm. We're probably amenable to that as a.
Yeah, we're amenable
as a
to that,
condition.
but there's 50 feet off of that. And in fact, we staked that along that whole berm. So that land, we can't touch, that's state land.
You can't touch it anyway.
So we can take it from that
You
state
almost de
line.
facto get a berm.
so if we
but
say
if you want-
as presented,
So
berm's there.
that doesn't affect the
The
view. Okay.
Because it's already there, an
Yeah.
existing berm.
Mrs. Avery may be able to see them from the end, but coming down Route 10, they're gonna be pretty well hit.
And it's the sort of thing at planning board, a butter could recommend requesting some sort of landscaping or
So-
Trees or
so they're out of
bushes
sight,
or
yeah.
some kind of.
some sort of
So
shrubbery
they're
or
out of
some
sight,
sort
sure.
of, something to hide the view
Yeah,
or soften the view.
yeah, pine trees are real quick there.
So-
And, yeah, it's pretty, I mean, you can't tell what's going on there now, right? So
But you
it's-
want to preserve that. that concept of this shielding, if you will,
Right.
berming it, yes.
But as presented, gets that in there, because he said the berm's gonna be there.
There's nothing in their request that has anything about a berm, any kind of condition. We have to add the condition.
I'll make a motion that we approve case 1155 for the special exception and recommend that the planning board consider retaining the berm to the north side of the proposed driveway.
I second.
Can I make one quick
Sure.
DOT is, there's no sight distance issue now, but
Oh, they may want to take down some of the berm.
They will.
I don't know if they will or not, but I don't want there to be a crux of.
As, you know, okay, I'll
So
modify it to
if you're
say,
okay with that.
you know,
And before you start modifying, I would like to have it not, that,
that's how we recommend to planning board.
I know, I know, I'd like it a little stronger than that, to have the applicant, existing berm in the right of way to remain as long as DOT gives them the line of sight or
Sure,
whatever.
as he said.
Yeah,
You got that? Paul?
existing berm in the right of way to be maintained as
Preserved.
Preserved, there you go. As the applicant stated, it would be subject to any grading that would have to be done for a line of sight for the driveway. Does that work? Somebody want to second that?
Do you want to state the purpose of the berm? In other words, its function is to...
To both shield the
view.
potential, the view of people coming down Route 10 and neighbors, and to protect the noise
from
for
Route 10.
residents, yeah, from the road. And I would think that would be, you'd want to do that anyway, just so it's quieter from the highway noise.
Unless everyone wanted a view of Route 10.
Well, it's not so much a view, but it's a Jake brake hitting the go to the 35.
Yeah.
And I would think that might be something.
So I'll amend the motion as Ben said.
I second it.
What he said.
Yeah, all of that.
And I would put that as a condition that the
another condition?
yes, that the selectmen consider asking the DOT to move the 35 miles an hour north.
Yeah, that's fine.
Would I be responsible? We'll go ahead and do it, and then I'll figure out who's responsible for bringing that to DOT. I mean, to POS.
Well, a representative, I would think.
Oh, that's true. You can bring it. Good. There we go. It's solved.
Is that our, or is it because it's a state road? Is that their?
They can ask the state to do. They can ask the state.
So they would ask the state.
Yeah, they
And the reason is safety.
right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, did you say 30 or 35?
35. Or that's what
It's
it is.
30.
No,
It's
it's
30 at the
30.
high school, so you'd keep it 30.
Yeah.
It's 30 up through the ball fields, and then it turns to 55.
Yeah, we'll keep it 30. Keep it. Yeah.
We didn't see what DOT says.
Yeah. Well, consider ask DOT to consider lowering it from 55 up to, I don't know. Yeah, let them decide.
If the things get built.
Yeah. Well, even if they don't, because if the senior thing goes in, that's almost across the
Yeah.
street, and to me, it would make sense to.
It's only half a mile.
And if it's, by then they may be slowed down by the time they get to the ball fields. But, all right, so I would, so berm with DOT, and that we would ask the select board to.
Ask DOT to review speed limit.
Right. Potentially lowering speed limit further up.
Is Chris agree with that?
Okay.
Sure, I'll second it. I think that's a lot for just a cluster, but
Well, they're in the safety thing.
okay.
Okay, so those are the two conditions. Do I have a motion for the whole thing?
Aye.
All right, so Jeff made the motion, Chris
Chris seconded
seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye to the, with the conditions.
All right.
All right, so,
So you have to. Oh, he's writing it.
It's not required, it's just basically applying what I
Yeah,
administratively.
sure.
Yeah, work.
Good job. Great.
You want one bigger? We can make them bigger.
I just
What, this isn't.
I know, I should get you a nice cover.
all right, what
I
I
do
wrote
have
is,
First page.
from a right way to be maintained as per applicant's description with DOT line of sight exception, and ask BOS to consider, asking state to lower speed limits further to the north.
Are these people here?
Yes, that
Do
poor
we
woman
want,
in the
do we
red
state,
shirt.
we state the purpose of the berm
You
was
can.
to shield
You could, I know,
Shield both,
I think
uh,
that's, it would be a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you guys, it's a, she's,
Yeah.
and they're,
shield development from.
the other ones are going great, they're a business. They
I know,
Potential
I get it.
residents.
Don't you think that's a good idea?
Yes.
I should.
Because I know.
It's a lot of fun, I should.
Shield, well, that's both, it shields them from the view and.
Right,
from the
shield,
smoke.
right.
Do we vote on the whole thing we did, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Now, my question is whether we, I know Christina says in the grand scheme of things, it would make it kosher, but I question whether we actually need the second one if condominiums are allowed.
Well, it's
I w-
kind of vague, and this provides cover for them.
I was going to suggest.
I actually went to legal counsel, town legal counsel, and I kind of fought him on it, saying, wait a minute, you're not, it says including condominiums. He goes, well, then they need to change their definition of single-family housing, because the single-family housing states it's not attached to any other home, which they get the single-family, but then if you get rid of that, the cluster development allows for condominium. I kind of wanted the lawyer to get rid of single housing, which is defined via our definitions that it is standalone. Like, okay, that's
It should be
good.
called detached single family.
And then, and/or detached and/or undetached, which AKA condominium.
Yeah, but you said the definition of condominium is two or more attached.
Absolutely, and I put that, well,
Two or more detached?
you need
Attached.
to a million and two is a condominium. We have the next case.
Can I suggest that we, in lieu of, if we can jump to 1157, just
Yeah, I thought
check
of
that out.
I thought of that before we started this.
And then come back to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then come back
If
to
that's fine with you, it's worth it.
1156 after that.
I believe you have to vote on changing the
Yeah.
order.
Yeah.
Is that a motion, Chris?
Yeah, make a motion that we change the order and go to 1150, case number 1157 first, and then do 1156.
I would second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I wish you'd done that sooner. Probably
I
you
should
guys
have,
too.
I could have thought about it too, I rarely asked.
And I apologize, but you guys are, this is, I never want to say simple one. Okay, case 1157, John, Linda, I'm gonna butcher this, as now,
As an Auskowitz.
No, that's not away.
Sonovich.
That's not.
Okay. Request a variance from terms of Article 2, Section 207.5 of the zoning ordinance to allow for a reduction in the front setbacks. Property is identified as map 111, lot 51, is located at 16 Chima Street in the residential R1 zoning district. Okay, so tell us what you're looking to do.
What we're looking to do is,
And your name for...
oh, Linda Asinovich.
Yeah, got it.
Thank you. What we'd like to do is we've already removed the porch, left the old stairs, and we just want to redo the existing, but extend it over to the end of our house so that we have a nice porch to put old folks' rocking chairs.
Like a 3-season porch you want to put on the front of that?
No, we don't want to enclose it.
So you've
Okay.
removed this
Mm-hmm.
and left the stairs, and then you're gonna build
Just put an
Right.
8-foot
right.
porch,
Towards the garage or the other side?
the other side.
Okay.
And then we're going to put the roof on it. We're going to try and make it look,
And watch the world go by on Cheney Street.
yeah, especially when the school gets out.
Oh, and that is entertaining.
Yes, it is.
and Halloween.
Yes, I watch my grandchildren.
Yeah, mine, my oldest just started kindergarten, so I hear ya.
What?
Oldest grandchild.
Oh.
No, I'm not that stupid. It was hard enough when I was 40.
Yeah. Doesn't get easier.
Okay. Any letters, anybody like to,
I got a question.
any, go ahead.
The existing porch, it says here, is 4 feet by 4 feet.
The porch part was, and then the stairs came down,
Okay.
so
Now,
it was 7 feet.
okay. Now, you want to put an 8-foot deep porch on the front.
But the stairs and that are going to stay the same dimension.
They're going to be on the side? The stairs are going to be on the
So
side of
it'll
the
be-
porch?
They'll
Or they're gonna be
still
in the front? Okay.
And then the extended porch will come to the edge of the steps.
Yes, okay.
I won't be going any further out into the yard.
Okay.
All right, yeah, so the deck's gonna be 4 feet in front of the front door and 8
Mhm.
feet for the rest of it. Okay,
Right.
gotcha.
So you're gonna be another 4 feet closer to the edge of the road or the sidewalk.
But equal with the bottom of the
But
last.
equal with the steps that are already there,
Right.
which are so there's no extension beyond the
Yeah.
steps.
No.
Copy that.
I
Okay.
figure it looks like there's a phone pole in the front yard anyway that's closer to the road.
Well,
I
they're gonna-
believe there's also sidewalks, is that accurate on Chino?
That's on the other side
On
of
the
the
other
street.
I apologize, no sidewalks on her, take that back, no
It's
sidewalks.
bigger because it's longer, but it doesn't
It's
stick
longer,
out
but it
anymore.
doesn't. So what is the variance is for?
She's grandfathered, this is
She's
a grandfathered
grandfathered in,
structure.
right?
If you change the footprint, she's allowed to redo this porch if it needed repair, was falling apart, exactly as is. Make it, you could make it
Make it bigger by
fancier,
making it-
or
Why
make
do-
it different, but
Because
exactly if you
she's
change the
extending
footprint.
the non-conforming.
Right. So that is the
Variance.
the reduction of front yard setback that she's getting a variance
Right.
for.
Yes.
Not what was already there, but for what's going to come.
Making
down
it,
the
Make
front.
it-
making a
Okay.
longer length of
Understood.
non-conforming.
Right.
And the non-conformity
Longer
came
length of-
along after the house was
Right.
put up.
Longer length of non-conforming.
Right.
She's requesting more to be in the more nice.
Sounds like a lifestyle to me. So, okay.
So, yeah, Cheney Street's gonna get, that certainly wouldn't make, Cheney Street could still be wide.
Certainly not the closest house to the
Right.
street.
No.
Okay, we'll close the deliberation.
Any butters?
I asked. Non-abutters as they comatose. Okay, so, I would entertain a motion to go into deliberation.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
This is kind of what they did to my house before we bought it. They had a porch on the front of the house, and they put except for they had put a 3-season porch on the front of the house. So.
Okay,
But
I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion that granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because the overall setback from the street would not change.
I would second that.
I make a motion in the spirit of the ordinance.
We got to vote on this.
Well, we didn't vote on the last one, did we?
Aye.
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 Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because it's not affecting the overall footprint of the house for the most part. It's enhancing it. So.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. See, granting the variance would do substantial justice because it allows the property owner to enjoy better enjoy the value of their property.
Improve the property as they want it.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For the following reasons, I make a motion for the following reasons. The values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because it is in the character of the it is within the character of the neighborhood.
Second.
Just put this would improve the house.
That's what you put.
Yes.
Okay. However you want to interpret.
Well, it's not going to be diminished, but
Yeah.
and not that I disagree with yours, but
Okay. No.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of the provision to the property because the ordinance came about after the property existed. And
Second.
the proposed use is a reasonable one
Oh.
because it improves the owner's use of their property, and there are other properties with a minimal setback from the street along that street.
Now can I second?
Get enough room to write all that.
Yeah, I'm not writing it down.
Mark's already written it all down.
Maybe you should take a course on shorthand.
Then you got to translate the shorthand. All those pot hooks.
We used to have someone to take minutes at the school board, Jim Stroley.
Becky Sarant was the last one to use shorthand in the court system before everybody else was gone to the machines.
Stenographer, yeah.
Stenographer.
Joan Stroley would take her minutes in shorthand and get it back. It was like reading a transcript.
Yeah. All right. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then on the whole thing.
Make a motion that we grant the variance in case 1157 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Linda. You all right? You awake?
I am, and I appreciate you letting me go.
Well, sorry.
Ed.
Sorry we didn't think of it sooner.
You'll have to drive down and check it out if it comes out like I'm hoping.
We hope it does, so.
All right. Have a
We'll
good
just
night.
walk by and wave.
I know. I'll be sitting out there with my coffee. Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you for your patience. Alright, how formal do we want to get here? We hit a lot of this last time.
See if there's anything from the audience or the applicant.
Yeah.
I would open up the case.
Open up, yeah.
I'd read it to the
Yeah, maybe
record.
I should do that.
Yes, I'd just at least do that. Open
Please
up-
make it official.
Case 1156, Mark Brunel, owner, requests a variance from terms of Article 2, 2061 of the zoning ordinance to allow for duplexes in the rural zone. The property is identified as map 218. Lot 1 is located North Main Street in the rural zone district. Okay, if you want to just kind of state your rationale for doing duplexes rather than singles and kind of
Sure,
get the high points of the...
I'll be brief, and also the applicant had just a couple, I can step forward.
Saw that before.
Oh, did you guys did see all this?
I have
I
And
didn't
there's a
have it to
footprint.
give it out, so I think they might like to. I thought they would.
Please.
It looks like
Did you get this?
duplex.
No,
Yeah,
at least I don't think so.
You get that. You get that.
We had a condo, we call it a condo complex in our
for the
hometown.
record, Spencer Tate, Viridian Land Services, here on behalf of Mark Brunel, for the subject property, map 218, lot 11, 21 acre piece in the rural zone. And I'll try to maintain some brevity here. So essentially, two-family duplexes are being proposed with variance, despite single families being allowed in this zone by right, and also condominiums being allowed in this zone by right. The board was kind of picking at it before in terms of at what point does a building that has shared residences become condominium. But for the sake of keeping everything tidy, we saw the variance for the duplexes because it's not explicitly stated within the zoning as a permitted right. Essentially, there's no relief being sought for the overall density of the parcel, so just because we're proposing duplexes doesn't mean that there's going to be more housing units. Kind of strikes the same theme as before, but basically allows for the units to be in smaller footprints, which allows us to put in a shorter amount of road, less infrastructure, less demand on the overall 21 acre piece while maintaining housing units. And also what that allows the applicant to do is cut down on the overall cost of construction, which could be transferred to the eventual property owners. I can get into the regional impacts of being 30,000 housing units short. In Newport,
nice, actually.
in particular, this area all the way up to the Upper Valley.
No, it's
is,
not.
It's just a single.
remarkably short of housing.
Garage door opener.
So what this does is it allows to keep developer costs down while not deviating from the allowed density of the site, and kind of allows for a lot more shared infrastructure. And again, a condominium, if we put two of these duplexes together, it seems like then that would be allowed. And the fact that we're kind of separating, keep this a little bit more of a
I think that's an area of the country that you can refer to it as that. We had, in my hometown, they built a development, if you will, that was duplexes, and they were all called condos. So they were just a two-story condo with a garage attached. So it was.
I don't want to be pedantic about it, but
Yeah,
it
it's-
just kind of cleans everything up.
Yeah, it's a
Something
duplex.
that shares a wall.
Yeah.
Common wall.
And since our definitions are a bit vague or sketchy.
I think we could clean them
Going
up.
through the variants, we can determine whether we want to make sure we've covered everything.
In my mind, individual deeds make it a condominium, but
Individual what?
deeds.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a deed to have.
Which isn't that what they call the one on Riverbend? Is a condominium?
Yeah, but we don't have that definition in our zoning ordinance, so
Yeah.
Right.
we should go through this.
So something.
Actually, I don't believe in individual, because then you would be saying Sugarbrook is a condo, and those are not condominiums. They have
they're not
individual.
shared, but they're single family.
They are, but you're saying because they're sharing the one property, the
Right.
one piece of land, the
No,
little
but
piece of land.
each,
They share a common wall.
but
Yeah.
this person has a deed, this person has a deed.
Absolutely.
So there are two deeds for one building, in my mind, making a condominium.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, right?
Are we in deliberation?
No.
No, we're just
We're
asking
we're
questions.
stealing your
Yeah.
time.
No, I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't want to breathe too much.
Any more questions? More.
This development, is it going to be on a town road or private?
Be private road,
Will there be a maintenance agreement?
up to the developer and probably the property owners.
In your sketch on the east side of that cul-de-sac, what is that building that's right? Is that a maintenance
That's
building?
Snow storage area.
Snow storage?
Yeah, which is a requirement of the planning regs, so
Okay.
we're just trying to hit some of the.
God, it's rare people think about where to put the snow when they build something.
It's nice when they do that.
It's really just, we wanted to give you guys a graphic depiction of two-dimensionally that there's horizontally some space, some realistic space to depict.
But to get the
Well,
last
that's
question,
all goes into some-
how would be, I assume these people aren't gonna be all plowing their own driveways, or how's that?
Yeah, I mean, each lot is individual, so it's just like if you owned it.
Yeah, but somebody's gonna have to plow the road.
Somebody was gonna have to
Right.
plow the road, so I don't know.
Right.
Were you-
Well, so we would be maintaining that road until all the units were built and sold. Once all the buildings, sold, then they're gonna have to get together and say, okay, we're gonna hire United Construction to plow our road and maintain it.
So it sounds like either a homeowners association or that common ownership, and then the road would be under that, but private.
For
Sounds
private,
like
yeah.
Private road.
But it would not be the town's.
It has to be a private road.
Yeah.
They're making it, the town is not, now that they could request the town accept, turn it into a public road. I do not foresee, although that is absolutely the BOS's purview.
No, I think that's town meeting to accept the road.
Oh geez, I would find that a very difficult thing to come to.
And it has to meet standards.
Right, well, we
Yeah.
asked for them to meet standards anyway in our zoning ordinance.
Right.
You have to meet subdivision standards, which they will, and that will be addressed at the planning board. I could not imagine this being not staying a private road. There is an RSA in the New Hampshire laws that if these houses aren't left with a road management plan specifically written out and how much like is donated, it is already written that everyone that lives on a private road has to equally maintain it as such, and then they have to fight it out amongst themselves in court.
Well, that's what I was.
There's an
getting at.
RSA covering it.
But is there, you mentioned there's a lot of different ways to do it, homeowners association,
Right.
tenants in common,
Right.
I guess other than what you just said, Christina, it seems is that planning board's, does somebody get
Well,
to say?
if there's a state RSA about that, then,
Well, it says they have to fight it out, I'm just.
So, Beth, the answer to that is the planning board did get involved on private roads and mandate that there was a maintenance agreement on all the deeds. However, the minute the RSA came through, that the state, that we backed right off. And typically, I've seen the RSAs, although Spencer could make a comment to this, I've seen the RSAs listed on the surveys that go in front of the planning board. That RSA listed that this is a private road and that this RSA covers these humans on this property, and the state will require them to equally maintain it as such. How, so that we backed off of mandating it, if that's your answer.
And being a private development, going even further down this rabbit hole, I mean, your water system will be private until it hooks into the town system.
We'll have to extend the town system
Right.
over and be contingent on that. That's how it's, that's the density.
Right,
that
but
is
the
contingent on
hookups
that.
to each individual unit and the maintenance of that water supply, once it comes off the town water main, will be.
Well, that's a good question, because
it has-
typically the utility is owned to the meter, right?
It's to the curb cock, really, for
We've had this come up before. I think you may want to check on that, because my feeling is that once it.
It's owned to Route Tech, it's all the way owned to the
Yeah,
hookup.
I mean, you've got a private road there, that's like your driveway,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as far as the town.
I believe that's accurate. Yes, that we would not be repairing the main line throughout your road if that was needed.
Yeah.
That might want to be in a homeowner association.
We're just gonna tap the town line. The rest will be maintained by.
Yeah, I don't want to commit to the HOA.
But that's-
Whatever the shared ownership is.
Right.
whatever mechanism you will come up with.
I mean, yeah, it would be nice to have one so it doesn't end up into a giant pissing match.
Of course, yeah. The common interest is, it's good so long as everybody knows it. So if that's in the deed, as a deed covenants, obviously the RSA doesn't say what the deed says, but if it was also in the deed
If
language.
people know going in, yeah.
Typically, properties sell for a lot higher value when someone goes to move in on a private road, when the road maintenance is already set into the deeds. The increase of the real estate is significantly higher than you having to worry that everyone's going to be fighting.
So in past projects that I've done that we've had private roads, we put in their deed that there's a road maintenance agreement, and they have to sign the deed where that's listed.
Yeah, we're getting beyond what
So
we
it's
need.
pretty hard.
It will be a private road more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it'd be a private road whether they're duplexes or.
And it'll have to meet town specs. Or
The subdivision specs, absolutely,
Yeah.
Okay.
for that amount of units.
Any other questions? Okay. Any questions from the board? And in my mind, this is, I mean, although bigger, it's the same idea as the one we did on Cutts Road.
Make a motion to go into deliberations?
Oh, yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I think the power of granting this is the fact that condominiums are already a permitted use. So
Yeah.
the definition of them is this. I don't know how this is.
It's just.
I know it's dotting the i's and crossing the
And
t's.
it's the vagueness
I know.
within our zoning ordinance.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. This,
This is. I mean,
and
in terms of what's being asked for, it's just clarifying a rather unclarified situation.
well, and it makes sort of less boxes. Less boxes
Well-
covering up the land.
If the purpose is cluster and and the idea is, as they say, the cluster is in order to maximize sharing open space.
Yeah.
Duplex takes it another step.
Right.
Are they required? Are they required by the state to pave the road?
Yeah.
But whatever the subdivision standards
It's a
are,
private road,
they will mandate bluestone and ditches and.
There's been all kinds of requirements, and can double check this, even just for your knowledge. One of them is not paving. In theory, non-paving of the road, whether they do it or not, I'm not sure, but would create less impervious land, which, whether they do it or not, again, that would go through planning board. But if they left it dirt, it would maybe benefit this area if it's prone to flooding or runoff. I don't know. That would be at planning board, whether they'd say that their road is paved or not.
It's going to be impervious whether it's paved or bluestone, but a dirt road's a lot easier to maintain than a tire one. I mean,
Really?
with a grader, you can. Well, let's put it this way: a good dirt road is better than a mediocre tire road.
Yes.
Because you can bring it
You
back.
can
by
grade
grading
it, you can grade it, add more material.
It's
Run
tough to
it.
grade the paved roads back into better shape.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure it's been tried.
But we're digressing. That's going to be planned as whatever the specs are.
Oh, yeah, it's got nothing to do with really the
I'll
condo.
make a motion that granting the variance would not be contrary to public interest because our zoning regulations permits condominiums but not duplexes, and pretty much also the duplexes would be out of public view for the most part. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
What I wrote is this is essentially a condominium which is allowed.
That was going to be my reason for the next one.
Oh, okay. What was your reason for the first one?
The same thing.
All right. And
The spirit of the ordinance would be observed because
They're allowed, I know, right.
because
Condominium and duplexes are the same animal.
I actually did.
throughout the rest of the world, pretty much.
I asked him, I didn't think that they should have to go for this, and Spencer from Meridian, is that, said, could you please check with legal counsel, because I want to make sure I don't, and then when I did, Stephen Whitley did kind of question, he thought they should go, so.
Yeah, so.
Even though my administrative thought was,
But you're taking notes and gonna go to planning board and say,
and
fix
clear,
these
right,
definitions.
say, which cluster condominium entails any dwelling that has 2 or more single-family homes attached.
Or share a common wall.
Right, or share a common wall, whatever they want to, whatever purpose.
You gonna take a vote on this one?
what I wrote was we believe this is essentially a condominium which is allowed.
This is 1 or 2?
2,
Okay.
which is remarkably
Oh,
similar
you
to
did
what I
2?
wrote for 1.
Yeah.
We didn't vote on one yet.
I thought
No, I seconded it.
all in favor for 1?
Aye.
All in favor on 2?
Aye.
Okay.
And I'm going to make a motion that granting the variance would do substantial justice because it allows more open space and it reduces the materials necessary.
Second.
That's one, you're almost verbatim.
We tried.
Okay, let's see, you made it, somebody second it?
I did.
Just seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, 4.
For the following reason, the values of surrounding properties would not be diminished because the appearance of the duplexes would be similar to the appearance of single-family detached dwellings.
I'll second that.
And will be more pleasing than a gravel pit. That's what I'm gonna- That's what I'm gonna add.
You want to what?
I mean, it's essentially gravel paint now, and I gotta think having,
They're not operating as a traffic.
no, but that's,
That's not it, yeah.
What, you don't wish you had a gravel pit in your view?
I have what they call a barrel pit. That is part of our conservation easement, and we can still take clarify that. Okay, 5.
Did we vote?
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you get a second?
I thought so.
Someone second it and
I
then vote
believe
again.
that Scott did.
Maybe I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, owing to
You don't
the,
remember when you asked me to remember?
Somebody needs to know.
owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there's not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property, because our zoning ordinance definition of a condominium is the definition of a duplex. And the proposed use is a reasonable one because it reduces the cost of construction for the developer of the property.
And uses up less open space. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second that.
More conforming cluster development.
Somebody second that?
I did.
Chris, you all in favor?
Aye.
The whole thing?
I'll make a motion that we grant the variance for case 1156 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
But-
Yeah.
Any people you don't want, just like